So we should have a pretty good group here today. So thank you all for joining. Just wanted to do a hangout where we could all talk together and talk about
Okay,
2023 and how everybody's
Ricky,
Christmas travels went. Hey, Glenn.
Ricky, just to tell you, Ricky Roy, he's in his car right now. He'll be here in a bit.
Oh, okay.
He told me, he just texted me. You know who Ricky Roy is? 2-Bit Da Vinci. He's out in San Francisco.
Yep. I don't know if everybody knows each other or not, but I'll kind of go around the room in my screen at least. Um, John, John, how do you say your last name? John Vander Voort or Vert?
Very close. Yeah. John Van de Voort.
Van de Voort. Okay. And John has a YouTube channel doing FSD drives and things in the winter with his, is it a 3 or Y? I can't remember.
I've got a 2020 Model Y long range.
Okay. And yeah, it's been testing things out in the winter. So some cool drone shots in there and good adventures. And then John Check is on the other side of me on my screen at least. And he's a viewer. He's always has good suggestions on stuff I should be covering. That last Bolt story came from John. So he's been around and on a lot of the live streams.
Well, you're not that far from me. You're only 30 miles away, right? Or something.
Yeah. We did the CCS combo adapter. That was John's.
Yeah.
EV Dave is in Nashville right now, but he's always doing road trips and things like that. I'm sure everybody knows who he is. Dave Anderson. So also thanks for joining. I know he's out and about, but then Glenn is he's blue now. He's on mute too, but he's done a handful. He's been on a handful of a lot of the live streams. We've seen him out in South Dakota on the Tesla Sound of Silence rally. So cool to have him. He was just out having drinks with another Tesla owner, charging their cars, and remembered, hey,
Actually,
there's a
he's an
live stream.
ID4 owner.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so we were using an L2 in Northeast.
nice.
Yeah.
I'm on stealth mode, so nobody knows where I live. No, because our call sign, Dave knows what I'm talking about. When you get an amateur call sign, they can look you up. Right, Dave?
Yeah, usually I don't list my call sign. I just say I'm an amateur radio operator. But if you're a good amateur radio operator, you could figure out what my call is.
DAV.
Yeah, well, how many of them are in Tryon?
Are you a 0 call?
No, it's a 4.
4.
If you have a common last name or an uncommon last name, you're easy to find. So
yeah. Well,
I'm in trouble in that regard. So yeah.
I live in a relatively small place, so there's not a lot of us hams there, but I usually don't put it out on YouTube.
Yeah, but you got a nice garage too. You got a big garage. 4 stalls.
There's a story behind that garage, and that is I had trailers and tractors, and my wife didn't want to see all that junk in the yard, so she got the contractor to go ahead and build a garage for it. Well, I got wind of it, and I said, well, I want to put my Teslas in there. So one thing led to another, and it's 90 by 35 inside.
Huge.
And
is it heated?
It's absolutely huge. And then my contractor talked me into that epoxy floor. So
well, that's nice.
It's nice.
Do you heat it?
You guys ever get in the area, come and stop by.
Do you heat the garage?
I do. I've got 20 kW of solar on the roof because the roof's big enough. 58 panels or something, and it's heated and cooled. So it stays at about 65 to 75 degrees inside.
Cool. We've got Jim, the Iowa Tesla guy here, who's right below me on my screen. I don't know how your screens are going, but that all gets messed up. But Jim is does all sorts of tests, accessories, just put in a swivel mount that I think there's a video coming on.
That's correct.
And you had something the other day. Oh, you actually tested Zoom in the car.
Yeah, because my wife, well, I have two Model Ys, and my wife has a new one with the Raison processor. So I found out later that us old Atom processor people don't get it, but
I know.
Yeah.
It sucks.
but she has it.
Well, it looked pretty good.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
you-
bad. It's usable.
You drive the car that's dented, right, Jim? Got a dent.
The car, oh, the car that got hit. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, there's no dent.
I
There's
know, I know.
for those of you that didn't see my post on Twitter, I had this woman. I shouldn't say woman, a person. I was pulling up behind her, and all of a sudden the car just started going backwards. I looked at the cam footage, and the reverse lights didn't turn on. The car was an automatic, so the only thing I can think that she
Oh,
did
yeah,
was that
I thought it was
she
a
put it in
stick.
neutral. No, it wasn't a stick, and I think the car was a piece of junk, and it had been in many accidents. But she probably hit me, I don't know, 2-3 miles an hour by the time she actually tapped me. And there's a really, really small, clear coat, 1/8 of an inch wide scuff about this big that you can barely see. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this, so I'm just going to leave it.
I have something similar on the left rear bumper of my car. I've had 3 cars hit in the Lund's parking lot in Uptown Minneapolis. And the one time I didn't put Sentry Mode on, because I never had it enabled by Geo, right? Because I normally don't run it at home because my car will sit sometimes for several days. And I street park. So I usually park where I have cameras from my house pointed at it. And eventually I turned on the setting to say, well, if I'm not at home, turn it on. Well, I came out and someone scuffed like my rear bumper when they pulled out. Like it happens all the time. I think my last car got sideswiped there. You know, I went in for a frozen pizza. That was $510 later, you know.
Expensive pizza.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
went, you talking about car, Brian, but I went to a Chinese, about a year ago, went to a Chinese restaurant in Brooklyn Park and pulled up, you know, the restaurant, and I come out and they, you know, and they look at the back, what the heck, and it's getting dark, and somebody backed into my car, hit and run, just took off. And what's nice about it, it was considered vandalism. So my insurance company, it was like $5,000 worth of damage, but I paid my $500 deductible, but the insurance company doesn't hold it against you because it's considered vandalism. So
Yeah. Glenn, I think you're muted.
I'm used to muting and unmuting, and I'm just slow tonight. So, no, I mine wasn't held against me, but it was one of those things where it's like, it sucks to deal with. And this one, you can barely see it. It might buff out. I'll find out in the spring. We'll see.
I would ask it, Jim, the Iowa guy, that Minnesota's, a lot of people don't realize, but Brian knows this. Minnesota's got a state law for glass, 0 deductible. I hear all these guys on YouTube saying, well, I paid $900. I had to pay a $500 deductible. In Minnesota, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that like Iowa too, or no?
No idea. I've never had to deal with any glass.
Oh, we have state law. So
I've replaced my windshield. That's the only thing so far, but that was nothing out of my pocket. Up front, it was just because Progressive didn't deal with Tesla, so I had to pay for it. And they reimbursed me.
Jason,
Yeah, that's how our windshield went too. I see Jason's in his car. Jason in the plaid there.
oh, he's
Yeah,
on
that's
the,
kind of weird.
That's her tall
It's
lady.
Black and white.
yeah, the camera's.
Yeah,
black
it
and
looks
white.
pretty bad.
Are you in your garage?
Oh.
It'll go black and white when the light level drops low enough.
Well, I accessed the camera for the dog, Dylan, is black and white. And it
It'll
was
switch to color. If it gets enough light in that room, it'll switch
Oh.
back to color.
I hope there's a retrofit for us guys. I got a 2020, and Brian, you didn't get it either, did you? The Zoom?
Which-
Yeah, I think the
Zoom?
retrofit includes a new Model Y or 3.
You
I don't-
can't retrofit the rise as for the Ryzen because of the 12 volt. But
Oh.
it's different. So
Well,
you need the other battery is part of it. So you can't just swap them out, even if they offered it.
What do
So-
you need, what do you mean?
Yeah,
You
that's
need a
true.
lithium battery?
Yeah,
No,
so
the CPU,
basically
MCU.
ours don't, yeah, so the newer ones with the Ryzen come with a lithium 12 volt.
Yeah,
That's
And
part
Dave-
of it.
you know, that's a bad thing for us hams. Dave knows I'm talking about. We need at least 15, 20 amps. Those batteries don't deliver that for our radio equipment. Where you guys ain't hams, but Dave knows I'm talking about.
Yeah, my buddy Lee, he's been experimenting with a Biano battery charged from the 12 volt SIG plug and runs his 7100. Seems to work pretty well.
You know?
Oh, so he just has a separate battery that runs
Yeah, I got
off the 12 volt. Okay.
I
Yeah,
bought one
the
of-
12 volt charges the battery and then the radio's hooked to the battery and it supplies plenty of power for the radio.
Dave, I actually bought one of those batteries. They're by Blue Eddy, and I plug it in the back of the Model Y, and then I can get about 15, 20 amps off of there. Plus, you got 115, 120 volts. But it's like a $700 battery, so you know it's an inverter.
Yeah, somebody got them made. I think they, somebody got, yeah, somebody went up there. and got them. That's always a good strategy too, is when you go up there.
Who's that?
Sound like somebody in Todd's end.
Yeah.
My wife probably.
Lee's
She's
checking
in the
in on
game.
us.
Yes, she is. She's playing Elder Scrolls right now, so
Well, did anybody have any exciting holiday travel, or was it all right with the cold where you guys
Where
were?
I is?
We took a trip to exotic Brooklyn Park, Minnesota.
Well, you come up by me, huh? That's where I'm at.
Yeah, we drove over and car did pretty well. It had, I think the energy efficiency was right around 440 watt hours per mile. So it wasn't that great, but you know, it got us over there. And little tentative getting to the supercharger down in where were we? Robbinsdale. I think we
You
were
want to
like 5% charge because
I went to Maple Grove, brand new one. It's a Target.
yeah, you know, I don't know if that one was full or what, but it wasn't when I did the route planner, it didn't come up on the
Oh
route.
my God.
Yeah, we drove over to the cities, didn't charge before we visited family, left the car outside, and it just, you know, it had phantom drained for
Oh.
whatever time we were over there. So when we got back in, is at like 14% or something. And
John, where are you located?
Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
So not that big of a drive, but you know, just enough to get down there in range with the day trip.
Hey, check this out, you guys. The superchargers, and Brian, we haven't. Somebody needs to do a YouTube video on this. Maple Grove, brand new supercharger, and what's the other one?
North Branch.
North Branch. The price difference on the superchargers is half. The price there is there's a 50% price difference.
Robbinsdale was 23 cents 24/7 for a long time,
That's
where
what
St. Louis Park and Minnetonka were tiered. So I during the day, I just like, depending on where I was, I would just like, well, I'll just go there and
Well,
spend an extra
But
10
North Branch is twice as much as well in the boonies.
Well, a lot of them were, well, this is old, but they were 41 cents. And then
Yeah.
like it was 23 cents, non-tiered, and then 46, like in St. Louis Park, Minnetonka. Even then Bloomington, when Bloomington opened, it wasn't tiered, and now it is. And they changed the tiering. It used to be 11 a.m. I got there at 9:05, and I'm like, why am I paying so much in St. Louis Park? They switched it to 9 a.m. And when I got in my car to check like where I could charge, like what the prices were, just to see, everything was empty. Like the prices, nothing, no times, no tiers, no pricing, nothing. Not, and all it was the day I complained about it on Slack. And then by the time I parked and plugged in and checked again, then I'm like, oh, well, now I'm paying this. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. I would have driven to Bloomington because Bloomington at the time was 11 a.m. tiered and not 9 a.m. And then they made it match like the next day, where St. Louis Park used to be 11 and then it was 9 a.m. It's just, they changed literally by the day, I swear.
Maple Grove and North Branch is being tiered, they're brand new. And
Well,
then
I can't charge at home, so I do use the superchargers more than most people locally. So I try to use L2 like for my work, or if I go out with a friend or something like tonight. But I do on occasion use them, like tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Saturday. I'm gonna go to Iowa, and I'm fine right now. I'll probably make it all the way down and then just charge in Albert Lee on the way back. But otherwise, I'd either stop in Bloomington or Albert Lee on the way down. And I don't like, if I know those are the closest or the easiest, I don't check the prices normally, just because it's just more convenient. But they do change all the time, and I usually check it when I'm there and then go, "Oh, that was dumb." So
Yeah, I don't live in an area that's supercharger dense enough to price shop. I just like wherever I go. So I'm not used to that concept.
I mean, yeah, because St. Louis Park's 3 miles to my west, and then Bloomington's like 6 miles to my south. But it's right, I live right off 35, so it's almost faster to get to Bloomington than it is to get to St. Louis Park.
XL Energy, I got on this about a year or so ago. I'm on a pilot program, and they handed me the charge point charger, which is like $700. I think Dave's got one. Give it to me for free to use, and I pay $43 a month unlimited off-peak charging on weekends from 9 o'clock to 9 a.m. and then all day Saturday, Sunday. I can charge as much as I want for free. And if I charge before that, it's 20 cents. But there's no reason to have to do that. And then I have a backup charger at 8 cents a kilowatt. I had a Tesla charger, and the power company wanted to wonder why I was using so much power. They're showing me the neighbor. They'd show you, this is the neighbor's power, like neighbor's power right here. And this is you. It's like, they're trying to figure out why you're using so much electricity. You know,
Tell them you're growing pot. You need
Yes,
it for the light.
but you can't get on. It was so stupid. Only 150 people were allowed to get on this in the whole state.
Come on, Evie Davids, let us.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
We had that program in our area too. We have Excel Energy, and at that time I was installing solar, so I didn't take advantage of it. And we already had a charge point charger because our first electric car is a Chevy Volt plug-in electric hybrid. And so I installed it for that, and we just keep using it for the Tesla.
Well, you guys are gonna get a crazy. I go to the VA Minneapolis, and they got a 3-level parking ramp, and there's 110 volts. I see a Chevy Volt up there plugged in on the level 3 during the summertime. During the wintertime, they close it off because it's too dangerous up there, the ice, whatever. But one of the police officers at the VA goes, I know where there's a charger. A lot of people don't know where, for charging cars. I says, yeah, level 3 up on there's an outlet there. I says, that's only 120 volts. You sit there for 3 days. Just like Quick Trips.
Yeah.
Quick Trips, 110 volts.
I don't know if anybody else saw this. I noticed it honestly right before I hopped online. Kyle Connor and Brandon started. I don't know if it's Brandon, but for sure they had problems down in Florida.
Him and his dad are
They were tweeting about it. It's on their YouTube channels. They started a new Twitter handle, Rate My Charge. I think that was at Rate My Charge or something to that effect. I can't remember exactly.
Oh, a new hashtag.
Yep. No. A new account on Twitter.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I wrote to him saying, "Is this just for DC fast charging or L2?" And he's like, "Anything. We want to know it all, good, bad, or ugly." So I think.
Yeah, I definitely watched that video. That was definitely interesting. How they got no one. There was still so many people didn't know the little things that all of us kind of know. A lot of the average users don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, his dad was on there too, and he was driving his dad's Model S. Yeah, they were all 3 of them were on there down in Florida.
At Rate Your Charge. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Electrify America's got me. They're talking about getting the government involved and getting a hold of Volkswagen and like, what's going on? Why are those chargers broken?
Yeah, I don't know how. I know it grew out of that, but I don't know how officially connected they still are. Like, I don't know if Volkswagen can really put the screws to them or not, but it'd be
Yeah.
nice to see that fixed.
The EV Go, I don't think it's up and running yet, Brian, is it? It's winter time, probably till summertime.
I haven't been back up to check it yet.
There's nothing on the map. They're
Um,
EV Go's, they're building a charger. I found out, and Brian did a video on it. And there's nothing on the map telling it's upcoming or nothing. It's a big secret. So it's almost done. So
This is probably off topic, but I was watching all that, and
that was
one of the guys interviewed a Mach-E guy, and apparently when EA gives away free energy, some of the locals drive over and charge there rather than their house,
Mhm.
gobbling up a site, which is uncool. I don't think you can stop it unless you quit
No.
giving away free energy.
Well, they paid for it, part of their contract they bought when they bought the car, right?
Yeah, but you only get 250 kilowatt hours. It's not much. When I bought my Mach-E, Kyle Connor used it for, I don't know, 2 months or something, and burned up that 250 and was using his own account afterwards.
Well,
And another thing too, we don't necessarily know if the electric companies that the people have the cars, if they even have off-peak hours or anything like that. At some type of EV program, they might not even have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could be. I know, I just did that interview with the ID4 owners, and I think they get like 2 years of free. It might only be a half hour each session free, but I think it is up to like 2 years. So
That's my friend who just got his, he got a Chattanooga one. He just got it maybe a month ago or so, if that. And he gets 2 years of 30 minutes of time.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that does really, when chargers are down or there's only a couple spots, that's
Any
rough.
of you watched the Rich rebuilds about his Rivian that he just put out?
I haven't seen that yet.
that's
It's,
not that way.
It's interesting. It really, I was romanticizing for a while about the Rivian R1T being like my next vehicle. And I do have a deposit down on a Chevy Silverado EV truck. But after watching that video, I don't know. I mean, he was really struggling. Like the whole point of his video was the dealer is trying to overcharge him. And so he drove, or he traveled out of his way to New Jersey to get a different Rivian, to drive it to the dealer and kind of give them hell about the deal that they were trying to make with him, and then drive it back to his home up on the East Coast. And he couldn't find chargers. Like he said it was a 21-hour trip that ended up being over 24, 26 hours, something like that. Just because he had to drive so far out of his way or stop at level 2 chargers.
Well, you ended up buying the car at a private party, right? At the end there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it sounded like it was it was like somebody bought a Rivian for the purpose of flipping it.
There was two of them there.
There
Yeah,
were two. There's an R1S and an R1T, and he chose the truck.
Yeah, when I bought my Mach-E in 2021, even back then, there was nobody at the Electrify America chargers the whole way, all the way from Wyoming. And you would end up finding one or two not working chargers back then. The good part was nobody was there. You could hop chargers, and we did almost every site I had to move because it faulted out or whatever. So it's been an endemic problem that's been there a long time.
Yeah, I hope all this attention brings a change to it, but I was saying that in the spring. But I feel like, when I can't harp on it too much as a Tesla owner, because then it makes me sound like, oh, everybody needs a Tesla, all that. And it's like, no, I just want people to be able to charge. And it stinks that people are having these issues and these new cold weather issues and everything.
Yeah, I think the latest stat that I saw was only 1% of new car sales are EV, but of that 1%, 75% is Tesla. And that is almost solely due to the either name brand recognition or the charging infrastructure that's in place. Because like Marquez Brownlee video, he was talking about Tesla. Would you want something that doesn't have panel gap issues or something that has reliable supercharger network? Like what do you what's more valuable to you?
You know, when I ran into it, we go to these car shows, me and Brian during the summer, we go to Duluth and you go to churches and the electric events and stuff. And there was a guy, a dealer there was selling the Chevy Bolt or whatever, the electric one. Okay. And I walked up to him and about the charging infrastructure, I said, don't you guys think you guys should help? I mean, responsible to help out, get some chargers for you because you're selling these vehicles to your customers. He got in my face. Absolutely not. Why should we? That's not our problem. And like I go, whoa, I mean, not your problem. You're selling a vehicle to a customer and you don't care how your customer's experience is. I just walked away from him.
They're coming across from the gas station mentality. That's what it is. I mean, my brother works in the oil industry in Houston, and he was displeased when I bought an electric vehicle. But him and I weren't on great terms prior, so it's it is what it is. It didn't help matters, put it that way, But yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like, but that's what it is. It's like, well, we sold the car, we don't care. Let service deal with it, or that's your problem. Figure out where to plug it in. That's their mentality.
Yeah.
What do you think the new customer's opinion of the vehicle, that they have monumental charging issues to charge? Are they just throw in the towel, or do they grin and bear it?
I think it depends what type of typical driving you do. Like if you always charge at home overnight, you're not going to think about it. But if you're a road warrior, it's really going to affect your life, your quality of life. So,
I mean, for me, like I can't, like I mentioned it before, I park on the street and I can't charge at home. And Mike Horwath was the one who got me into like first time I saw a Tesla in 2016 and got to drive it. And I worked with him a couple different places, and he was like, well, just wait. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna move and I'll have a different charging situation. And that hasn't changed, honestly, since 2007. Unfortunately for me, well, not unfortunately, but just is what it is. But I waited my car. I bought a car in 2019 and I'm like, it's not ready yet. And I knew there were chargers coming to some of the Targets, superchargers, but they weren't there yet. And I didn't want to rely on that. But even now, since I got my car in September of 2021, and the amount of like L2 chargers, like the ones I use tonight, they weren't there. They weren't there then. There's one down the street from me. They weren't there. There's like 10 chargers near me that weren't there. And so for me, that makes a difference. And I'm like one of those apartment dwellers. So, I'm making it work. And I try not to use the superchargers, but I do use them. But 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was possible, but it was way more inconvenient, put it that way. I wish I could charge at home.
It's kind of like Tesla of 2014, honestly.
Yeah.
It will come. It will come someday. It's just going to take a while.
Yeah, the folks I interviewed a couple weeks ago said they, 99.9% of the time they charge at home a couple times a week. They just commute into the city and that's it. And then I think they've done like 1 or 2 trips into Wisconsin, more to check out the charging infrastructure more than anything. And then they did 1 trip up to northern Minnesota, but they haven't had any issues, but they've only done it like 3 times and it's not their regular life. So for them, it's probably going to be fine. But yeah, for people who are, I feel bad for all the people who are so excited. Like, we're going to show off our new electric car to their relatives, over Christmas. And then, all your story is when you finally get to your relatives is it was a pain to charge, or, we had to drive slow or whatever. And it's just unfortunate. Hi, Roland.
Hey,
Welcome.
sorry I'm late.
No problem.
Has
He
anybody did
is,
that?
for those who don't know him, he is
Rowan?
Chemist American Lifestyle on YouTube and made my Brian Reeby hats and lives up in Williston, North Dakota, works in the oil fields and still driving his Teslas up there, charging on 120.
Rowan.
Yep.
Good to see you again.
What are the
Right on.
temps like up there right now?
Hey, it's warming up now. It's I think it's 33 degrees. Yeah, so
T-shirt weather.
yep.
Yeah.
Almost time to break out the shorts.
Anybody do that service mode test for the battery? The percent or the battery, the condition of your battery, you plug it in and you let it sit for like a day and a half or whatever. It's
Yeah, I saw Kyle did it, but I haven't done it.
that's one.
They say they interviewed a tech and it's not even completely reliable for them.
Oh,
They may have to cycle it even as a service tech. So
Oh.
it's a tool for them to start diagnosing. It's not the tool the final tool they use to diagnose the healthier battery.
Yeah.
They'll more do that through a CAN bus technology.
Well, he even did his and said 8% battery health, and then they said, well, that's a bug.
yeah.
You know, 8%. Like, where are you going to go with 8%? Right?
Hey, Jason, if you put your car in drive, does the camera go dead then?
Yep, it did. I still maintained audio, but no video.
Oh,
So I went it back into park and it shows video. I'm just surprised it's black and white. I tried to move in a little bit more. I don't have great cell signal at my home, so I moved to a local shopping center where I thought I would have a better signal. So no.
You have a smartphone light? Try to increase the brightness and see if that changes it.
Yeah, turn your phone on and get a little light and see.
Do you lose the video
Yeah.
on the do you
I don't want to scare you guys or anything,
Jason, do you lose the video on the screen when you go into drive too?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
no.
Yeah, they don't want you zooming down the road, literally.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jim, you were saying that it's the low light. It switches to black and white, right?
It's the ambient light that's causing it to go to black and white.
Yeah, and unfortunately I have my roof covered, so I can't even, I'm not sure I'd ever get color.
So
we need to do this during the day.
Yeah.
The FSD now, you guys that us people live up in the northern states, Tesla really needs to like full self-driving in a residential area. It's suicidal. It wants to do 20 miles an hour on the ice and wants to go into snowbanks. I mean, it doesn't work. And I told Brian about that too. And somebody in Tesla they need to slow it down in the residential area. You got to bring it down from 20 down to like 15 or 10 miles an hour. Right, Brian?
Yeah, well, on the snow covered roads, and I don't have winter tires, so for me it's pretty slick. So when I use FSD, I've tried it on snow covered roads, but it hasn't been great. I think John, you've got winter tires on yours, don't you? And
yeah, but it wants to go at 20, 30, residential is 30 miles an hour. You can't do it on ice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what you got to slow down. The car wants to go at full speed around the corners.
I've had different experience. I've had mixed results on residential streets. I had a video up about it.
On ice?
It actually would slow down to make a turn on a snow-covered street. So I was kind of impressed about that.
Has Dan done a video, like, because he lives up in Northeast, like, if you drive down the roads by me, you can barely, drive 5 miles an hour they're so skinny right now with the cars. I don't know what FSD would do because I don't have it. So I did right away. And then I just did a subscription and did the trial or did the beta for like a month. And I'm like, man, it's so bad. Like I'm done with it. But that was over a year ago.
That's pretty good.
Curious, has he done one? I haven't looked at his videos.
I've had cars on both sides of the streets. And a car goes right. It actually waited for another car one time, so it does really good as long as there's no ice.
Cause like on my streets, like one of the streets, the north-south, the avenues, I live on a street, so the avenue to my west is so skinny, I don't know how a fire truck gets down, let alone if a car's coming and there aren't open places, I'll fold my mirrors and pray like to get by someone, cause
Mhm.
you know, but I'm just wondering what FSD would do in these situations.
I
'Cause
haven't,
Robotaxi, right? Like, I just,
yeah, I was gonna say, I haven't driven on narrow snow-covered streets, but I've driven on a lot of snow-covered streets. And actually, interestingly, last year, and I think it was version 10.10.7 or 10.6, I took it on Lake Vermilion where there was no road, and drove it on a lake road. And as long as you have the steering wheel, like if it sees margins caused by a snowplow or whatever, it'll think it's a street and it'll let you put on FSD and then it'll keep it on. But if you disable or if you turn it off and that little steering wheel goes away, which it often does, then you can't put it back on. So it's not very reliable, but it actually works pretty well, I would say. Even on the, what was interesting on that drive was I was in the middle of Stunts Bay on Lake Vermilion, and for whatever reason, my Tesla picked up a 25-mile-per-hour speed zone. Like there's no speed limit out here. It's a lake road. There are no speed signs. And so I was trying to, adjust the speed for that, but it does work. It does actually work on improvised roads pretty well, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, I've noticed. Oh, go ahead.
You were running beta, right? Or running the regular one?
Running FSD beta.
Okay.
And I guess what I should back up and qualify a couple of things. The one struggle I really do see with it is knowing where the center of the lane is. It wants to drift and try and find its position in the lane quite a bit. So again, recent video, snow-covered roads. It was driving on the place of the road where cars would park, like on the rightmost part of the lane. And there's clearly pavement where people drive, and it wasn't on that. Like the left tire was on that and the right tire was in the snow. So I see that quite a bit. And then in terms of on snow-covered streets, the other thing I didn't mention, while it slows down for corners, what it doesn't do well is it accelerates like there's no snow. So it'll take off. It's super aggressive.
Coming out of a corner.
Yeah, once it commits to making the turn and coming out of the corner, like it wants to get up to the speed that you're supposed to be at right away. And that definitely causes traction issues.
Where do you have your autopilot set? Minimum, medium, or like Mad
I
Max?
typically keep it right in the middle.
Okay.
I keep acceleration on standard because most of my driving is on good pavement or whatever, and if it's really bad, I don't use FSD on snow other than to demonstrate it for videos. So I keep it on standard acceleration, not chill mode, most of the time, because I don't have any issues accelerating typically. But it's slowing down, like regen braking, I'll put on chill or low or whatever, just so I have a little more control in braking. And I haven't been using the auto brake feature where it applies the brakes instead of the regen. I did try it for a little bit, and I did find some sliding issues when it wanted to slow down because it was braking more aggressively than I would. And this again is last week when the winter vortex came through. So not too safe in those conditions.
I know
Yeah,
if that regen on ice, it gets kind of wonky.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Jim, have you had much snow-covered roads in Iowa, or have the roads stayed pretty clear?
Actually, no, they've been pretty well covered since about a week before Christmas, and it's been so cold it just isn't melting. FSD where I'm at is pretty much worthless right now. And yeah, when you can turn it on, it's because of the lines and the snow, and it's constantly hunting all over the place. It's just better to leave it off right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we got up to about, I think I saw 39 today as we were driving around. And so the roads are finally, at least where I've been, are finally starting to clear out. And I'm like, okay, I can use it again, responsibly. So
You know what's your tire pressure? I'd stick some air in the tires. The tire pressures was getting warnings.
Yeah, I bumped mine back up Christmas Eve morning. That's when we did all of our driving, and then got back late at night with 2% and 14 below or whatever it was. But
Where'd you go then? Where was that? You went to
uh,
Milton?
my wife's family is from north of the cities, so we went up there in the morning, and then my family's down in Le Sueur, which is most of the way down to Mankato. And so we went there in the afternoon and then came home. And
Oh, I was gonna mention
Yeah.
something about the heat pump deal. Saw Kyle Connor, I brought something the last podcast they had on the last Friday. I brought up the heat pump. Anything below 10 below, my heat pump doesn't want to work with it, darn. And he actually did a heat pump comparing it to the regular electric heater but he was at 20 below, but at 10 below, and he took heat. It took him, got 15, 20 minutes to get heat. I mean,
I don't know. Mine was a 12 below. I let mine warm up for 10 minutes and I went out there in my car. The ambient temperature was 68 degrees in my car in 10
Wow.
minutes.
it doesn't work very good, does it? No.
No, but well, I mean 10 minutes from -7 in my car or whatever.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was at 10 below driving, and then it started blowing cold air for a while, and like, what's going
On a
on?
heat pump.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then it got better. I don't know if there's a flap underneath there too. It's supposed to close. That might get frozen. It's underneath there.
That was the big problem last year, and I thought they adjusted settings.
Well,
to
you get
not-
ice. You get ice on there, and it freezes. You can't move. So
They had
Yes,
heat
sir.
pump issues on early Model 3s and Model Ys. I had a recall on mine.
yeah,
Yep, same here.
me too. I did that. The pressure valves or pressure sensors.
Now I preheated my car or preconditioned it for 25 minutes because I watched the temperature on Friday, and it was warm for 15 minutes, and I like kept going, and then I was then I got in and told them I'm going to a supercharger in St. Paul, Midway, and I was using like almost 1400 watt hours per mile driving down 94, going literally 35 miles an hour, maybe 40. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I preheated my car. I preheated my car leaving work for like 15 minutes and lost 5% on the battery.
yeah.
I noticed when you plug in at the house now, I get these little like a heater, like preheating. What is it, preheat now on the level 2 chargers? Because I saw something on the screen that popped up. It looked like little bacon strips up in the corner.
Yeah, that's warming up the battery.
So
It'll show that when you're charging as well. If it's
Mhm.
taking juice, like from whether it's a supercharger or L2, doesn't matter, or
oh,
it'll if any of the kilowatts coming in is being used to warm the battery to get it to optimal charging temperature, it will show that. And now it puts little, like if you're in the car, it shows an information button you can click on, or it shows like if you go to the charge menu, it'll say down below that it's using electricity to bring the battery to optimal temperature for charging.
and then
It says that in the app too, but it's kind of
okay.
hidden. Yeah, it's newish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. Let's see, I can't use it now. I got track mode. I don't know how that. What's
I
that?
haven't turned it on yet. I'm afraid to. And
Take it out on a lake.
You can use it right now. You just got to find a big parking lot full of snow.
Well, how's that work? You gotta let something. What do you want monitoring on that thing? How stuff gets warm or what?
Well, no,
Dave knows.
Yeah.
you just set the bias of your wheels all to the rear, and it becomes an old-fashioned rear-wheel drive car, and then you can have some fun drifting.
Oh,
Dan was telling me 25 front, 75 back, and gun it. I'm like, well, so
Yeah, I use track mode on my Model 3 for autocross, and it's you get in it and drive it just like a video game. The car deals with everything else. Just floor it when it starts getting sideways, and it just keeps going. It's just an awesome thing. But on snow, no, I don't think so. But you're right. You can rear bias it or front bias it to whatever you want, and have a rear wheel drive car or a front wheel drive car.
Well, you know, it's interesting, Dave. I had my performance Model Y for 2020, and then I heard somebody tweeted Elon. He only listens to certain people. And how about track mode? And he says, okay. And then we got it. Like, why did you get it? We should have got that 2 years ago.
Well, I think their goal with the Model Y was more of a family car and not a race car, right?
Yeah.
My first Model Y is a 2020 also, very early serial number 431. And it had no track mode, but it was performance. And I finally got it. I'm going to take it out this year in autocross and see how it does. I think it's going to be a blast. If you ever get a chance to go to a car club and take your car out in autocross, you'll have a blast.
Yeah,
Well, that Model Y, the Model Y you got the 2020, so that was brand new.
The first one that it was I got in 2020 was Performance Model Y.
The
And
second
then
one.
my 2022 Model Y is just a long range.
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah. Jason, have you done autocross or just drag?
Just drag. So my best time so far, which is not as good as like you see on YouTube, is 9.4 seconds at 151 miles per hour for the quarter mile. Yeah. But one thing I am actually kind of excited about is that I don't know if you guys followed the One Lap America. There was a Tesla Plaid that was running in it, and there would have been two, but the other guy kind of backed out. But it's a local team from Minnesota here, and one of the guys lives about a mile away from my house. It's Team PGR, and they actually finished third out of approximately 60 or 70 cars. And basically, they just do a 2-week trial around the United States, and they do like 2 different track days per day, where they'll have a drag strip on one day and autocross on another one, and then wet strip on another one, and just different types of events they do. So you need a good all-around car. And the cool part about this race is that the cars have to be street legal, because you have to drive them from point to point to point. And they actually finished third, and they argue that they could have done better because the wet traction day they didn't really know what they're doing, and they finished 43rd out of all the cars. Otherwise, they were finishing top 5 and top 10 out of all those. And the exciting part about that is those guys are going to help me set up my car. They're basically going to help me redo my brakes and set me up with the same type of racing tire setup they have. And I actually plan on going out to Tesla Corsica with Dan this year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hitting the Plaid on a track in California should be a lot of fun.
Oh, how do you get 200 miles an hour? You gotta prove that Tesla you got the higher brakes and tires.
No, you gotta jailbreak your car. You gotta crack the code. You can't do 200. So I'll be limited to 175 unless I talk to some people in Canada, which I don't plan on doing. Those guys have to crack the software in the car to go above 175. So we're still limited to 175. To do 200, we're still waiting on Elon for that. But one kind of interesting story about the racing of Model S's, the big issue with the old S performance models was thermal management. You would go around a track and you'd get around the first lap, you'd have full power, and then it would go into thermal management and go into creep mode. The Tesla Model Plaid was supposed to fix that. They almost fixed it. So these Team PGR guys, they have 1,000 horsepower car. Some argue 1,100 horsepower car. They were running these 3 laps around for these race events, and they were getting full horsepower, and then they actually went into thermal management for about the last half of that 3rd lap. So these guys actually got a modification from, I believe, Mountain Pass, that they could override the power limits on their car. So to keep the consistent power on the car, they had to limit their Plaid to 800 or 900 horsepower. They dropped down the maximum power they could produce so they could get consistent power in all three laps, and they still finished 3rd on a power limited Plaid. So it's very impressive. And they did have to change their brake pads every 2 days.
That's a lot of car to stop.
Yeah, exactly. The almost 5,000 pounds running at 900 horsepower, hard, very, very hard. They did go through a lot of brake pads, which is kind of unheard of for
I
Tesla.
thought it was over 1,000.
Yeah, it is, but they had to cut it back
Oh, yeah,
because
okay.
they got into thermal management. So
Yes.
the two things we're working on this year is better airflow to the radiators and a little bit more aerodynamics on their front end, and they should be set for next season. And they're going to help me out this season with setting me up lightweight. So
Yeah, and that was not just electric cars, right? That was running against mostly combustion.
yeah, mostly combustion. I don't even. Yeah, they were the only EV there.
Okay,
There might have been a Taycan,
okay.
but it didn't perform very well.
No one with a sporty Leaf or anything?
Nope.
So the combustion, they get mad at you because I hear
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Well,
certainly do.
Yeah, I've noticed on drag strips, they're becoming more and more open to me. And you get some hemming and hawing, and there's guys that are coming over that are thoroughly impressed. That you can have a stock car running in 9 seconds. So they're quietly impressed, and they get a kick out of it and ask some questions. So out of the 3 or 4 years I've been drag racing S's, it's improved quite a bit. With the the first time, everybody asked me how my flux capacitor was doing, and I had zero curiosity on it. To this season, everybody wants to know, and they want to see me run. And people have asked me if they can drive my car.
Jason,
Nope.
you go up to Brainerd Speedway at all?
Yes, yeah, that's my regular track.
Oh,
But
Brainerd, yeah.
I've done there. We actually finished number 1 and 2 at Sirens National drag strip, their event. And then we also run at Rockaway Falls in Wisconsin.
How far are the Tesla chargers from you from the Speedway?
Up in Brainerd, it's like a mile away or 2 miles away. It's absolutely perfect location.
Oh.
And yeah, I would recommend that for anybody that lives in the upper Midwest if they want to try to do racing. And they even have NEMA 1450s trackside that you can actually fill up again. So you can just kind of plug in your car if you want to take like an hour break and cap it up to the high state of charge. So
Tell these guys Brainerd Speedway is up in the middle of nowhere. It's a kind of rural area.
BIR. I remember that growing up in that area.
Yeah.
And Rock Falls is actually 10 minutes from my house. So I'm familiar with that track.
That one actually scares me quite a bit for the Plaid because they don't have as long of a cool down lane as the BIR has. So I'm chicken to run full power there.
But John, come on, it's the gateway to the cabin country. Come on, it's not. There's trees.
I want to see a Plaid with a trailer hitch pulling a trailer going down.
In Europe, they're now coming standard with that. You can get a hitch attachment for them.
Oh,
it's serious. You
do
can
a launch
actually
with a trailer on it.
Yeah.
It'd be like a cartoon where the trailer stays still and the frame just yanks out from under it.
Yeah.
Where's all that plywood at? It's on the ground.
When we run autocross, there's 3 Model 3s, and we're always in the top 8 cars out of 85 cars in autocross. And eventually, you're right, Jason, the guys just want to ride with you because they can't believe it.
Yep, and that's what the Team PGR guys were pretty well versed on Model 3 racing, and they wanted to see if they could push the Plaid, and they're not going back to Model 3 anymore. They're selling their Model 3, and they're actually picking up a second Plaid now.
Jason,
you get over twice the power.
Yeah, you go to Pikes Peak.
Yeah,
no, I'd love to check it out.
My 2020 Model Y holds the current production car record at Pikes Peak.
You still own that one?
Yeah, my 2018, the red Model 3 that we did with Now You Know channel, Zach and Jesse, and Blake Fuller was the driver. And we took it up Pikes Peak, and out of 23 expedition cars, including Randy Post, we won the class that's production electric car. The only thing we could do, we had to put a roll cage in it and new tires, and we could change the brake pads and fluid, and that was it. And it was all about battery management.
You still own that vehicle?
I don't. I sold it to my buddy Richard, which you've probably seen on some of my videos. And he and I do a lot of autocross together in it. He really likes it.
The older guy, that Richard, that sits.
Yeah, he's a ham, WD4 CBA.
He's the one that had the just got the. You took him to get his Model Y or something.
Oh no! Well, see, I've got a bunch of ham friends that all have Teslas now.
Oh.
It could have been. I think you're thinking of Greg. K1.
Yeah, Greg. I was thinking of Greg. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's really an awesome vehicle. If you've not driven autocross, I suggest you guys take your cars out to the local autocross and have a blast. It's really a lot of fun.
Maybe about 4 months. No.
Dave, how long did it take to put the roll cage in that 3?
Oh, Brian, we had to gut it. Blake Fuller worked with somebody down in Florida, and they took all the stuff out. And I told them, I said, look, I want it back as a car. And so they kept all the pieces, and they put the roll cage in pieces. And it took them a couple of weeks, I think, to get it fit in there properly.
So they gutted all the soft materials or covered what they could, and then put that in and just welded it up.
We
in the car.
We dumped every bit of weight out of it we could. All the seats, the subwoofers, extra plastic, you name it, we took it out, and we put it all back in. We left the headliner in, I think. We did have to disable the airbags because that was part of the safety thing. So there wasn't any airbags in the thing, but it was all gone. The door panels, we had the door switch just hanging on a tie wrap so you could open the window, stuff like that. Just every bit of weight we took out of it. But it was fun. It was fun to do it. But the amazing part is we didn't trailer that car from Florida. Blake drove it from Florida. It was a crowd-sponsored car to go up Pikes Peak and under the Now You Know channel, under Electric Performance. If you guys haven't seen that video, go to Electric Performance YouTube channel and watch the 13-minute video. It's a combination of helicopter and in-car video, and it is really awesome of the run up Pikes Peak.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times, but haven't seen it recently. But yeah, it is amazing.
What do you mean by what's crowdfunding? Do people donate money?
Yeah, the Now You Know channel, Zach and Jesse were sponsoring it, and they put it out. If you had $250, we get your name on the side of the car.
Oh, okay.
And if you paid for it, it's still on the side of the car. Richard left all of that on the side of the car.
I saw Brian Reeby on the side of the car. No.
If he donated, then it's still there.
He works for.
I wasn't able to, unfortunately, but
yeah, but it was amazing. I mean, for what we did, and the car held up very well, and just was good.
yeah, that was such a cool thing. I was watching Now You Know at the time, and sending supercharger reviews in and things like that. So I was keeping tabs on the project at the time. But like I said, I haven't watched that 13-minute cut. And if you've gone up Pikes Peak as a tourist, it's even more impressive because you're like, how is anyone going this fast up those turns? It's insane.
Yeah, the mountain is really weird. I don't mean to derail our conversation, but there's 3 sections of Pikes Peak, and each day you would get to practice either from the bottom up a third, the middle third, or the top third. And we were up the first day up at the top third, from place at about 12,000 feet to 14,400 feet. and the mountain heaves. If you guys know what that is, that's where it keeps moving and they have to fix the road. Well, the mountain was heaving, and Randy was there. He took off. We ran the same course we did because he was in the same class, and he just went balls out. And he'd never driven that car up that stretch, which was absolutely silly in my opinion. You shouldn't have do that on your first run. There's no need for it. Well, anyway, he ran through the heaving part, and the car got light in the turn and cranked it into the wall.
Oh, I saw that video there, but what do you guys do for charging now? What was for charging? Is it
Oh, oh, that was the whole story. I don't
Generators?
think you guys have enough time, but the short story is we got the use of a motorhome 1450 charger. And then there was some rub between Blake and one of the other drivers, and the staff told us we couldn't use it anymore. So they were being a real butt. So we had rented a little pickup truck just to haul our junk around. And Kyle says, you know, let's pole charge this thing. So when we ran, we would charge it at the Airbnb we were in, drive it over there, and it got there at about 88%. And so we hooked it up with a tow strap, and we towed it all the way up to the top of the mountain on race day. And it coasted all the way down and got to 99%. And we ran the race at 99 doing tow charging. And it was neat. Kyle Connor thought of that idea. He and I hung out during the race, so it was cool. But it was, again, it was a really fun time. And you'd be amazed at how well your car will perform.
I've gone up to Brainerd and watched, I guess only one time, but it was a great time to see the Teslas doing. I think somebody did the autocross track. I can't remember who it was, but most people were just doing the drag strip, but it was really impressive.
Yeah, you get a big smile when you take your car out on the track.
What are the temps doing in Nashville right now, Dave?
You know, we got the end of that cold stuff. Thank you guys for sending that down here.
Our pleasure.
Appreciate it. It got down, I think, to -10 or something here. We got
wow.
a couple days of snow. It's now melted. It was 55 today. So it got cold, but it's going to be nice, I think, for the next week or so. So we're here when my daughter lives in Nashville too. So we came out. My son flew in from Wilmington, so the whole family's here.
Which part of Nashville are you in?
You know, everybody asks me that. I'm new to Nashville. We're in the northeast side from downtown. Highway 155 loops around, and you've got Highway 31. We're in here in that section, kind of the northeast.
East Nashville?
East
Like when
Nashville, northeast Nashville.
Because like I've only been there once. Well, I've driven through several times, but I've stayed there once. We weren't too far across the river from the or by the stadium. Not across the river, but by the stadium.
Yeah.
And everybody was saying we were in East Nashville. Like it was like more of a arty area we were in. Like I would say. Like more musicians and arty. Not like Broadway, like downtown.
Yeah, well, Broadway's different.
Yeah.
Country.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like we found bars that were playing music besides country music, which was great for me personally. But we found three metal bars, which isn't my jam, but I'll take it, I guess. So
you know, people.
I loved it. It was fun.
People call this place Nash Vegas, and I can see it. It's actually pretty cool. I mean, we're all older, I can tell. But all the young people here, it's a real vibrant city. They're taking old properties and mowing down the old properties and building up nice houses. And it's just a really neat area here. In some places, it's pretty run down, but in other places, it's getting all built up. It's kind of nice.
Dave, you're going to check out the pickers there. I guess they got a building in Nashville. You know those guys on History Channel?
No,
Yeah, the
What kind
pickers,
of
they get,
pickers? You mean like junkers?
no,
The American pickers.
American pickers, they got one in Iowa, with the Iowa guy here, they got
They're in Davenport, I think.
they're in Davenport, and then they got a place in Nashville.
Oh, no kidding. Well, if you ask my wife, I got enough junk at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're about 90 miles from where I'm at. I grew up in Davenport.
Yeah, Frank had a stroke, you know that, right? He's out of the show, so.
I don't follow the show.
Oh,
Sorry.
you don't watch it? I love that
I haven't
show.
watched it in years. He did?
love
I
that
didn't
show.
realize that.
On the
Frank
History
had a
Channel.
stroke, huh? That's sad.
Yeah, History Channel. I love the History Channel.
Hey, I got a question. On my next trip up north after the weather breaks a little bit on the way to Wyoming, I'm thinking of going up through North Dakota. Somebody told me it's like a pool table with nothing in the air. Is that true? And have you guys been across the top and then come down into South Dakota there, or anybody done that route?
Not in an EV, but I've done it.
Yeah.
Roland,
going-
is he still there?
What's that, Jason?
I was gonna say, is Roland still here?
He
got
might
the-
be. He might be.
Remember, Dave, there's a Wyoming, Minnesota too. So when you say Wyoming,
Oh, sorry.
just joking.
Uh,
There is a
um,
Wyoming. Yeah.
I've done that trip on the way to Montana, going up 94 through Fargo and across,
Hey, Roland.
and it's pretty flat, but it's not as bad as I think
Nebraska.
the eastern part of South Dakota is probably worse than North Dakota. And then once you get into, well, kind of like Western South Dakota, when you get into Western North Dakota and get into the upper Badlands and that kind of stuff, it's pretty nice area. I enjoy that drive.
I
But
think isn't it Theodore Roosevelt Park or whatever on the on the edge up there? Yeah.
yeah,
your-
right after, is that Dickinson?
Yeah, something like that. Like
Yeah.
I drove across Canada for some concerts and we dropped back down in North Dakota, almost on the border of Montana. And the funny thing is when we were driving from Winnipeg to can't remember the name of the town, but we were driving across and this is 2004 and it was April and we're like, why are these signs telling me the road's going to turn? I can see. And then it started snowing. It started snowing like crazy. And they're like, well, thank you for those turn signs, because otherwise you would have no idea.
Yeah.
In the middle of Saskatchewan, like I couldn't see a thing. But yeah, it's not that flat. That's flat. Drive across Saskatchewan.
They don't say flat. Flat tires that's a bad thing for Brian there.
Yeah.
And then just to give you a trick too, is the wind can sometimes get a little bad. So yeah, thankfully the Teslas will kind of compute for that now. So
As we
Yeah,
all can attest to driving to Sound of Silence last year, the wind.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a few years ago that we had it where it was off by 10% along the whole trip, all the way across.
Hey,
Yeah, Roland. Oh, he's talking. But yeah, the superchargers across North Dakota are between 90 and 100 miles apart. So
Probably got to
on
pick them all.
on a good day, you can skip one, but usually we just hit them all.
Yeah.
Roland, how do you've done the drive across North Dakota a handful of times? What's your opinion on it?
For us, I'm very thankful for Dickinson when they opened that one, so we could actually get out. So, but with our SR Plus, the Dickinson to Spearfish is kind of be a stretch. So we always stop at Bowman. It's an RV park just to get I don't know, maybe an hour stretch and just walk around at the RV park to get a little bit of juice, because it's hard to hit that Dickinson to Spearfish with our SR Plus. But
Right, yeah, that's going south, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
hey, I got a good one. I think I told Brian this. There's actually some ham guys. there's Western Minnesota. The guy says, well, we had a Tesla during the snowstorm. It died on the road. And I go, those electric cars are, I wouldn't want. And I says, I go to him, what happens when you run out of gas in your pickup truck? Your truck dies too, don't it? The guy wasn't prepared. He never charged his vehicle. You run out of electricity, you run out of gas. Same thing. Am I correct? Yeah.
We
I've-
were we were hunting in South Dakota in a F-250 truck towing a trailer with four-wheelers. We ran out of gas and had to figure out how to get gas out of the four-wheelers into the truck. There's nothing around there for it's the same thing. I mean, if you pass a gas station without another one coming up, it's the same thing as being an electric vehicle passing a charger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just making some drama up is all they're doing.
Sure. Well, I think the bottom line is most people don't want to change. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen it and we like what we do, but a lot of people just don't want to change. Once they have something going, they just want to keep doing the
Dave,
same.
are you into this because of the ham radio stuff? I mean, I like the electronics and stuff. That's kind of why I work with batteries all the time and motor, are you kind of into it because of the ham radio stuff or?
Well, my profession, I owned a communications company. We manufactured infrastructure products for the two-way radio industry. And I retired in 2014. I sold it to Motorola. But now I'm retired, but my hobby is amateur radio. Yeah, my hobby is amateur radio, and my profession was two-way radio. And I'm an embedded software guy. I do embedded real-time software as well as hardware. So
Give us some audio, Roland. Audio.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
Yeah, I
Oh,
work with
the
Little-
TV, the cartoon's on, so
Oh.
all right.
I work with the
So
extra.
I'm gonna share something, all right? So because I work in the fracking company, so it's Halliburton. So I get the heat every day. So the normal thing I get is they said it's not an electric, it's running cold. It's cold. That's always saying that one. So what I answered them, my reply is all the pump jack is powered by electricity. So it means the ice cars are run by
Oh, we got
electricity.
solar panels. Ricky Roy, there he is. Tell him you got solar panels.
Yeah.
Let Ricky in.
Yeah,
I like what they said. Like what you said. It's I don't know who said it. It's already I don't know. They're already against it. So it's I don't know. So even my boss, I get the heat every day because it's a truck town. Everything's running on truck. Yeah, but I still represent it. So every time there's a local car meet or car show, I represent it. So
well,
Well,
Yeah.
if you charge with solar or nuclear power, like I got a nuclear power plant by my house. So is that considered green?
but technically,
yeah.
I've read
Yeah.
studies though that electric cars are still more efficient even when powered by fossil fuels like coal. Just because the combustion engines waste, they're inefficient. They're a lot less efficient than electric.
It wastes about like 60-70%.
Mhm.
Basically something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, what's going on with Ricky? Is he connecting?
He's connecting.
Oh.
Sometimes it takes a while, but yeah, I was thinking, two things on that, like up where, hey, Kwame, good night. Up there where, people are driving, the big 250 diesels and all that, a lot of them, at least, my dad's trucks used to have block heaters. And so those would have to plug in every night either, or, too. And then, kind of go on the other spectrum of, losing range in the cold. In my 20s, my brother and I had some real beater cars. And I remember driving across Death Valley with the heater on so it wouldn't
overheat.
overheat, windows down, heat on, 100 something degrees out, and we're just wringing wet and miserable just trying to make it through the desert. And so, you kind of have you know, there's some negatives to having a gas car too sometimes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that was a good question to John or Glenn. I can't remember who asked it. For Dave, how did you get into electric vehicles? I was kind of curious about that in general, like for all of you guys.
Ham radio for me, so.
For me, I actually bought it for the performance and the technology. I essentially just bought it for, it was the highest performance car at the time. So environmental impacts weren't even on my mind at the time, but it was the technology and the performance. You know, I come from a very not EV friendly background family, and it's just the technology that got it to me, because I'm a software engineer by trade, and you know how advanced they were versus normal ICE cars is what really hooked me, and the performance. So I do it for racing, and I just have to say no to the new Air. I won't get it. I won't do it. The Sapphire. I will not do it.
Well, they might not be in business, so I wouldn't either.
I'm kind of with Jason on that. I did it for a little bit for the environment. Obviously, well, I went 7 years biking and walking everywhere. So I went 7 years on a car and where I live right now. So I could keep doing it, especially now that I work from home.
so you're backsliding. You're
Well,
going back to
well,
a car.
But I did that from 2007 to 2014, and then I got a car again or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, or 2005 to 2012, excuse me. And then I had some crappy Nissans for 3 in a row, and then a different car. But for me, it was like my friend Mike I mentioned earlier got me interested in it and was pushing me towards it, and then the infrastructure became available more readily for my current situation that made it worthwhile or work or whatever you want to say. So, you know, and in the text too, because I'm not a software engineer, I'm more of a cloud engineer. So I build stuff in the cloud. I don't write the code. I write code to make the code get where it needs to go and to run on the stuff it needs to run on. So to me, it's interesting. Like I just, you know, all about the kind of tech stuff. So that's kind of where I came from. And the performance doesn't hurt either. I can't afford a plaid, you know. I just have a Model YP, so you know, without FSD, so I'm in the peasant bill, you know. But that's fine. Like I'm cool with that.
They're
Well,
still
I
they're still
didn't want to
fast.
buy FSD with my situation where I was dipping my toe into the water, and it's like, well, do I want to spend? At the time, I think it was 10,000 when I got my car, and it's like, well, I ended up. I wish I would have bought it. I leased it because I didn't know my situation. I can't charge it home where I'm at, so.
Right.
And then I had it for a month and I regretted the fact that I didn't buy it. I should have just bought it. And now I can't. So now I gotta, you know, go. I'll deal with
Well,
that in 2024. I'll deal with
Yeah,
it.
well, now you can wait till everybody else says it's great and then subscribe.
Well, no, I was kind of curious because, like, you know, Dave had a 2020 Model Y performance and he has a 2022 year long range, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just like all the differences. Like I got mine when like, oh, they added this right at that. Then right after I got mine, they're like, oh, Ryzen. I'm like, really? Thanks. You know. So it's kind of, you know, I just look at it like everyone wants retrofits, and I'm like, well, I'll just get a new one when I can get a new one.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you get the main MCU changed out in a Model 3 and Y to the new processor. At least I thought I read something to that effect.
I mean, I don't have an incentive to do it on a lease, but
Oh no, I wouldn't if it's a lease.
Yeah.
but yeah,
I just
otherwise,
want-
I mean, if I owned it, I would for sure.
Yeah.
My-
I
my
just want
buddy-
to say hi to Steve who joined. Hi,
Hey, everybody.
welcome. And Ricky,
Sorry, I was
I don't know
late.
if you can hear us, but welcome as well. Steve is his YouTube channel is Plug and Play EV. I think, yes.
You got it?
Did I
Yes,
say it
thank you
right?
so much.
Okay.
You got it.
I'm always so worried I'm going to botch that, but
No, you
yeah,
got it. You got it.
and
You're
he's done a lot of
Very kind to pluggers now and again.
yeah, he's got a lot of good testing of EA up north near Boston and his runs to Ohio where it seems to actually work for them. So that's exciting.
It does. Apparently, I'm lucky. So
Yeah.
Hey Steve, have you watched any of the videos that Kyle Connor had with Electrify America? with a specific
did.
brand. I didn't know if you had that same brand up in Boston area. I'd have
No,
to try it out.
I'd love to test. We have majority signet, so I just can't. We do have one actually down. If I could get to Long Island, there is a BTC Power 4th generation station down there, but it's just I couldn't do it whilst it was still cold, and now the temperatures are getting back into the balmy 40 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's nothing to test whilst it's warm. But if I get down there, if there's a freezing cold day, I will do it. But I have a feeling it's more likely to be the low temperatures, the extreme lows, that would be the problem, rather than specifically the vendor. I'm waiting to see.
But like you said, it'd be interesting then that all of a sudden, okay, you have two different locations, the same brand. It could potentially be a nationwide issue with that brand.
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing is, if you look at their operating temperature for those units, it's down to minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit, I think it is. That's the lowest, and so minus 30 degrees Celsius. But that's not that low. I mean, you guys, if whoever's out there in Minnesota knows that you probably get a bunch of days that are kind of around that, right? Minus 20, minus 30. So if that's the lowest they can go, then there's going to be some more problems in the future here before winter's out.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
part
we've
that
had some.
perplexes
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
the part that kind of perplexes me is they have a lot of the experience in Norway. You know, why don't they kind of have the tech a little bit better figured out for them? It gets fairly cold about there, and you didn't hear Bjorn complaining about it that much. It seems like they've got it.
Well,
figured out.
I mean, I tested it in 10 degrees Fahrenheit the other day over here when it had the cold snap, and it worked fine. So it could be the vendor. It may be that they don't have any problems as we get down that low, but we'll, I don't think these stations are in those places that are super cold yet, except for potentially up in the mountains in Colorado. So I don't think it's going to be a widespread problem this winter. So I think they'll have some space to figure it out. But it's not. There is no excuse, as you say. If Norway can do it, everyone else needs to be able to follow their lead and go straight out. I think that's why people are excited to see Chem Power and some of those.
I just
come
wish
up.
we could blame it all on the cold. We know that's not the case, though. That's
well, there was another station over there that was older tech, I guess. They're one of the older stations.
Naples, Florida, the one they were at. There were 2 of 4 out, and then they were mislabeled. And then after they complained, EA fixed them remotely. Like me and you, or well, not you because you have a YouTube channel, or me having no platform to spout upon, I could scream into the void all day long and it won't get me anywhere, but not charging my car.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've seen them fix stuff pretty well. I mean, this shouldn't become an EA thing because that's been plenty of that in the last week or so. But
all I can say
whenever
is,
I've made a point to them, they've been good about fixing it.
I only have one experience at an EA station is with a friend's car in Albert Lee, and 2 of 4 were out, or whatever it is. Half of them were out, and we're like, "Wow, really?"
Yeah.
So,
but it also comes down to station stall count, right? I mean, there's if for us, a lot of the time when we're going to these 3 or 4 stall stations, 1 or 2 of them being out puts a massive burden on the rest of the location. I've been lucky. Some of the places I've gone, it's been able to say 1 station's out, but there's nobody there, so it doesn't really matter. But when we start to get into these places that have a heavy throughput, it is a real problem, and that's where the stall count needs to factor in as well. Because to be honest, I've been to Tesla stations that have 1 side out, or there's people sharing power, whatever it is, but there's 12 stalls.
I just had one last week. I went to a supercharger and one was out.
Yeah, but when it's 8, everything tells you where to go, right? So you just plug into a different stall. It's all done for you,
and they added recently where they will tell you, like, hey, if they know ahead of time, like, hey, stall 4C is out or whatever, right? But this one didn't, and I just flipped it over the top. And the hard part in the winter is, the cable getting stiff. It doesn't always stay there, and then with the wind or whatever, and then it drops in the snow, and people don't know. And I flipped it over the top, and I watched 2 people back into the space next to me that was out, and I rolled them and like, hey, that one's dead.
Steve, where are you located?
So,
where's Steve?
I'm up in Boston.
Oh, okay, you're there.
Ricky,
so it gets cold, but not crazy cold.
Ricky.
Just want to say hi. Ricky is here. His channel is 2-Bit Da Vinci, and he just did 60,000 mile 3-year review on his Model 3, and that was good to see. And maybe debating a why. And then he also had the video about heat pumps and stuff, but that's beyond my understanding. I watched it and went, I still don't get it, but they're
Well,
cool.
that's good feedback. I appreciate that.
I mean, I get it as much as I can, but it reaches a point with heat pump talk where it's just like, so it's magic.
But yeah, hey Brian, sorry, kids and life got in the way. I wasn't able to join earlier. Also,
No problem.
I just saw John is on. John, how's it going? It's amazing to actually finally put a face to the name.
Yeah, you too now. Doing okay. I'm retired Army. Just
That's
I'm
awesome.
just an old guy. I'm 60 years old, so
Very cool. Very cool. Where are you located, by the way?
I'm in Minneapolis.
Oh, nice. Okay. I might-
Brian's my neighbor, or he's 30 miles away, and we did those videos on the level 2 on the lovely CCS1 chargers for and stuff. Brian's not that far from me.
Cool.
Yeah, so yeah, we've got Wisconsin, Nashville. Well, Dave, you're not from Nashville. I don't know. Are you Nashville or are you Wyoming?
well,
Are you
yeah.
North Carolina?
Technically, I live here now too, occasionally, but my home is really North Carolina, and I have a place in Wyoming, so whatever that is.
Is that where they're taking out the power infrastructure, shooting them up on the power stations? North
What's it?
Carolina?
Oh, in North Carolina. You know what? I lived in California for a lot of years, and every time people would say, "Oh, I see you had landslides or you had fires." You know what? Yeah, there were, but it was like up in Santa Monica or something. It wasn't down where I lived in Huntington Beach. So, yeah, I'm sure in North Carolina, the rednecks shot up the place. I get it, but I don't know where that was. It was probably off to the east of me, but stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
By the way, hey, Ricky, Jason's in his plaid on Zoom.
Yeah. It goes to black and white when there's not a lot of light, but
I think I saw that earlier. That's so cool. I love that plaid, man. That is a tempting car. Maybe in 10 years or something, I can afford one.
yeah.
What are you driving right now, Ricky?
I have a Tesla Model 3 Performance that I've had for about 3 years, almost exactly 3 years. And yeah, so most of my driving for electric vehicle driving, well, pretty much all of it has been on Teslas. So charging is something I've never even thought about. Like, the only question we really have is, which restaurant do we want to eat at? Between Southern and Northern California, there's stops every 30 miles or something, and Teslas, all the new stations are installing are 50 stalls. I drove on the day after Christmas. The traffic between Northern and Southern California, like before and after Christmas, is horrendous. The trip took 3 hours longer because of traffic, but we were never waiting for charging or anything. I mean, these stalls were busy, but when you install 50 at a time, it's never a problem. And now, a couple of these stations, I'm not sure if anyone's from California. There's a station called Fireball that has like this just massive installation. There might even be more than 50 chargers. Across the street, there's 4 Electrify America stations, and I was stranded there in the past. I was reviewing an ID4, and I got stranded at one of these because the car told me, yeah, go here and charge. I got there with 30 miles of range left. The station wasn't even open. It wasn't even closed. It was under ribbons, and it was. And so I had 2 choices: either drive back 35 miles with 30 miles of range, or drive forward 40 miles. So I drafted behind like a semi, and so I drafted behind a semi backwards to go charge in the middle of the night with kids, not and stuff. So yeah, the Electrify America experience is, at least they're consistent. There's always a problem, which has kind of been my finding. So I appreciate the consistency, but that's not probably what they're going for. Come here, come say hi.
Yeah, that's a bummer when you get kids in the car. I'm always way more adventurous alone, but if I've got my daughter with me, it's always like, okay, let's do the responsible, smart thing. And
so I'll be honest. I said, my son came on with me over to Ohio, and I had second thoughts about it because it's a winter trip and it's getting cold. But we got over. We left Friday afternoon, came on, that evening we did 600 miles with EA that day. So, you know, in our area, we just have more success, I think. I don't know why that is. Can't put my finger on it at all. But, you know, with
Yeah,
kids,
yeah.
but I've got 2 kids.
Hey,
So,
hey, Ricky, I just looked at my electric bill I got today, and you're sitting down, I know, 9 cents a kilowatt, 24/7.
9 cents.
Yep.
We're,
We got
oh man, that's
Minnesota,
amazing.
we have nuclear power plants. That's why.
Yeah, what an idea.
Huh? We have 3 of them in Minnesota, I think, but I think 2 or 3.
Ours is 9.3 cents kilowatt hour, 24 hours a day.
Oh.
North Carolina.
We're in the winter now, so SDG&E has been gracious enough to only charge us like 34 or something. And the summer it goes into the 45s, 48s and stuff. And between 4 and
Air
I think
conditioning
the only
bill.
place with more expensive electricity is, I heard I don't know even know if it's Honolulu, but there's a place in Hawaii
Yeah.
that has San Diego beat. But otherwise, San Diego is the absolute just the worst.
How can you afford to air condition your place? Oh my God, this is.
The saving grace in California, I think there's a correlation, and I'm not sure how or who design the master designers at play, but if you go, you know, a couple hundred miles over to Arizona, it's over 100 degrees like half the year. You would die without air conditioning, and magically they paid 9 cents. Where I live, I need air conditioning maybe 15 days a year, so most of the year it's just really nice, right?
Oh.
And as a result, electricity is just so high, you just don't run it, and if you do, you buckle
I lived
in.
I lived in Phoenix, one of the hottest years on record at the time, and it was 1980, well, 2 years, 1989, 90. Hit 124 degrees one day.
Oh my goodness.
My birthday is the end of September, is 118 on my birthday.
In end of September.
Yeah, 118. Me and friends lived in a like a condo, like townhouse, second floor with a giant like sliding glass door facing west. And we added it because we were poorer college students. We added a second like sheet and stuff over it, and the HOA got mad at us because we were trying to. We kept it at like 85, and our bill was $300, and this was in 1989.
That's
Like, it was absolutely insane. I don't know.
So-
I mean, I don't care about what it costs per kilowatt or whatever.
Yeah.
But
So
but
the funny
but
part,
if you're in San Diego, if you're on the beach side, like, it's not bad. You go inland, it gets crazy because my brother-in-law lived in Del Mar, and it was like 70 degrees, and then he would go to work 20 miles to the west and it'd be 105. You know, so
yeah, it does. Yeah, it does get hotter in areas for sure. The big thing, and people don't think about this, is what's the temperature at like 2 a.m., right? So in
Yeah.
San Diego, even if it's 90, which is a really hot day for us, by 7 or 8 p.m., it's cooling off. And by 9 or 10 p.m., it's cool at night. It's very chilly. You just open the windows around the air. But those days in Arizona you're describing, it was probably 104 degrees outside at 2 a.m, in which case there's no respite. You just
I kept
to
oven
run that.
mitts in my car. I couldn't touch anything.
Unbelievable.
Literally, it was ridiculous. And
So
then
Brian,
everybody's like,
you can-
"Why'd you move back?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, yeah, it was 70, 60s and 70s in December, but I'd rather have 10 below here than 130 or 120 there. Like, screw that. Like,
So Glenn, where you at right now?
I'm in Minneapolis.
I mean, so you guys are all okay. That's very cool.
Yeah, we've got Wisconsin, North Dakota, Tennessee, Massachusetts, and California.
gotcha.
I'm
And
in
Minnesota. I
Odd
don't know if I said
Yeah.
that, but you already
I've
did.
lived in a couple places, but my whole family's from the East Coast, like Boston and Virginia and North Carolina and all that. But I grew up here. Everybody left, so I'm the only person left in Minnesota for my family. So they all
Gotcha.
had loved it so much they moved.
Hey, what's Ricky
Maybe,
think
maybe
about?
you're the, as I say, maybe you're the smart one.
Okay,
Or
that's
try to get away from me. One of the two. I don't know.
Ricky, do you deal with these solid state batteries? Are you going to checking out these things with the new batteries at all?
So I haven't. I might do an episode like an on-site kind of an update sort of a video for some solid state stuff next year, but I haven't done one yet. Honestly, there's a little bit of fatigue. I mean, there's a lot of the battery stuff is kind of repetitive after a while. So I've been trying to kind of blend stuff in, but I'll try to cover someone maybe like QuantumScape or somebody who potentially.
What are you working on right now? Just curious on your channel.
So one of the videos coming out shortly is going to be, so here, so our very next video that is coming up, well, our next video next week is on agro mining. So there are certain plants that have been kind of genetically altered to extract nickel, for example, or manganese or whatever it is you're looking for out of the soil, which all plants do anyway, but this is, you know, like 100 times the concentration, like a concentration of manganese that would kill a normal plant, but this plant is able to do it. And so instead of, so normally you have to go mining somewhere where there's a large enough concentration where it's economically viable. So with this, you could just plant like a field of crops in a place where there's like 2%, 1% nickel, 2% nickel or manganese, or, you know, some of these trace rare earth metals. And you can go plant these crops, they extract these elements out of the ground, and then you just cut them off, and then you incinerate the plant, and you're left with like a ash that you separate. And the separation of the ash is easy compared to mining, you know, tons and tons of earth for such a little amount of this stuff. So it's a fascinating,
Crazy, yeah.
growing industry.
Wasn't
And it
Tesla,
ties very directly
Brian,
to,
wasn't Tesla trying to get a nickel mine up in Minnesota? What's that all about? You remember?
I'm not sure if it's nickel. It could be. I know
There's
I
something
think they were in
fighting
talks with
It's the
like some of the
polymet
iron
mine.
ore. What's that?
It's the polymet mine. It was nickel and
Okay.
copper. Yep, up near the Boundary Waters canoe area. So, and that's still not active, but it would have been a possible another domestic source for some of those metals, I guess.
Think it's gonna happen? Probably not, huh?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Boundary waters.
Who knows?
Well, the boundary waters, people get really bent out of shape when you start messing with the boundary waters.
Well,
Yep.
yeah. It's,
But the mining up there is all, I mean, it's separate from the boundary waters. There's Iron Range, and that's
Yeah.
been active since the late 1800s. So
Yep.
it would just be getting permits, and if they have to, you know, encroach on towns or populated areas, working through property purchasing and relocation, that kind of thing.
Yep.
yeah.
So you actually talk about battery things. There was one interesting story that somebody attempted here in racing, and they're here in Minnesota. That's somebody that's a little bit of a hack, and they're known to be a good resource up here in Minnesota, that actually tried to boost their Model S performance with super caps.
Really?
But the problem is the inverters couldn't handle it. It was just basically set up for drag strip only. Would give it a short-term power boost.
Like a capacitor? Like a
Super capacitors.
Oh.
So they would use a super capacitor power bank that they would charge, and they would essentially use it for a one-time boost for their Model S on the drag strip. And it ended up kind of being an expensive mistake and went through a $30K inverter.
yeah,
It's a certain Eastern European guy that, Brian, you might know, that's very handy, and Tesla's in the area. He tried it, and yeah, it was expensive, but a cool concept.
Did he at least get one good run out of it?
No, and sadly, no. The motor fried before he got it to go.
Ooh.
But it was a
would've been
very
cool
cool
to see.
concept.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see if it improved the drag strip times at all.
That's what he was hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, the power density of super caps is just vastly superior to anything with a chemical makeup like a battery. But the power, the motor, the electronics have to be sized up in accordance with that. Otherwise, you're just going to simply fry it. What's actually more interesting is for braking, regen braking. If you wanted to get a Tesla Model S Plaid to set Nürburgring records more than they do now, the problem isn't acceleration at all. The problem is that you slam the brakes, and the Plaid brakes are they're like normal car brakes on a race car, right? So if you could find a way to get that recoup and regen back to the battery pack or to a supercapacitor instead of a battery, and then reuse it right out at the apex of the turn, nothing would keep up with you, and you wouldn't be frying your brakes and boiling your brake fluid like you would today. So the braking component of a super cap, in my opinion, is what could make electric vehicle racing like next level.
Oh, interesting. What do you think,
Yeah.
Jason?
Yep, I would agree. I'd agree on my limited battery knowledge.
Well, I just realized we're coming up to 10:40 here.
Push it to 11.
And I thought it would be cool to get, we lost Jim, he had to take off already, but before we lose more people, I wanted to get everybody's kind of big prediction or what they're looking forward to most about, like, in the EV landscape for the next year. What do you think is going to be the big thing? And
102.
John from Wisconsin, we'll start with you because you're first on my screen, and then whoever wants to bridge off of what he's got, take it away.
Well, what I'm seeing in FSD development has been exciting so far. The last year that I've been driving it has been, I've seen a lot of progression, but I'm starting to kind of feel it slow down a little bit. So I don't think that that's going to be the big story this next year. I do think the release of some other EVs from other manufacturers in Tesla is going to get people thinking a little more about, different options that are out there. But until they can develop the charging infrastructure to support that, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be second to Tesla next year. So I would think that's probably like a 2 to 3 year, maybe even 5-year outlook. So that's what I've got.
Cool. John, other John, Minnesota John.
Me, I don't know. I could wait to I gotta think. Be interested in if that Model 2 comes up, but it probably ain't gonna happen. I mean, Tesla's got too much stuff, they haven't even got the Cybertruck running yet. And I don't know who's got one. I don't have none on order, but I just hoping, I feel sorry for the other guys. I hope Electrify America gets their foot out of their rear end and get their charging stations working, because somebody needs to get involved. These people that buying all these EVs and there's nowhere to charge them. So I hope the infrastructure for the level. I hope Tesla. Well, here it don't matter. I don't know you guys. I hope Tesla opens up their chargers for the other guys. Maybe not in Los Angeles, but maybe here, because we're not super busy. That's about it. So
Yeah, it would make such
There's
a
no
difference.
other
It would
DC
open up the
fast chargers
Dakotas
here.
and everything.
We're a non-Tesla DC fast charging wasteland
Yeah.
way up here.
yeah.
It's that's for me. It's that, and then for me, it's like Tesla's whole like energy manufacturing with their battery packs and all what they're going to go there in regards and combine with solar more so than the cars. I think it's going to be interesting next year. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see that growth. Todd, how about you?
I was thinking something a little different, interesting. See what with the semi trucks, what PepsiCo says after a year under the belt of running the trucks. To see, okay, now they're going to have a blurb. Okay, yeah, we got return on investment 6 months. We already got our money back. It's just the fuel alone, they could easily get their money back on that.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see real clients, real world usage, how they choose to use them, and then, yeah, what their reviews are after having used them. Dave, what about you?
Well, this year or this coming year, I think we're going to see more development in FSD. I think, like John says, we've seen some improvements, but remember, a lot of people don't realize I've written software all my years. It's not like assembling a kit. You're developing something new, and as they develop something, you take a few steps forward and a step back and a few forward. So this development work, everybody wants it to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but they continue to work on it, and I see little improvements. I hope to see a good improvement and a rollout of more FSD this year. I expect the 4680 battery production to increase. I think they're finally working out all the bugs and all the mechanics and things like that. So I think we'll see that. And I'm hoping that hopefully at the end of 23, I'll get my Cybertruck. But I'm not holding my breath. I'm 35,000 down the list, which I guess is better than a million. But I hope to get it in 23. Meanwhile, I think I'm going to try to pick up a Ford F-150 and dump my diesel F-250 during the interim, and then dump the F-150 when my Cybertruck shows up. But I see big things, and like John said, EA is, see, I've been in business all my life, and the model to support, build, maintain a DC fast charging system, I'm not sure there's any money in it. The cost of the electricity, the maintenance, and all that stuff, if you put it all out in a spreadsheet, I'm not sure how you would run something like that. So I don't know where that's all going to come from, but I hope they do make some improvements this year on DC fast charging for the CCS people.
Jason, how about you?
Yeah, it stole on my thunder. I was hoping to get my Cybertruck in 23. We'll see if that happens. But you know, I do see some continuation on the FSD. I do believe they kind of hit a bottleneck in their software development, and I think they basically had to re-platform the whole thing. So that's why I think the growth has slowed down. So my prediction is that once they get past this hurdle, and I think they have, and the builds are becoming more stable, I see some acceleration in FSD beta coming next year. Just from my gut feeling, being a software developer for 20 plus years, I think they hit a fork. They had to do a central major rewrite, and it's stabilized again. I predict there will be some pretty good improvements. I'm confident in that.
Cool. Roland, what do you think? What do you think the big thing next year is going to be? You might be muted.
Dave, very-
My expectation is our Tesla's awesome, so I'm good with it. I'm not knowledgeable about it, but my expectation is on Minot, they said they're gonna put a supercharger in Minot, so I hope that goes through next year, and I hope somebody voted to put one supercharger in between Dickinson and Spearfish, because with our SR Plus, that's a stretch for us. So that's pretty much, but
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Those would be good additions, definitely.
Yeah.
Steve, what are you thinking? 2023.
I am hoping to see the more affordable end of the EV market. Maybe not expand, but certainly have these announcements. If you watch the vehicle releases and the kind of things like the Polestar 3, the Cadillac Lyric, all of the vehicles that get announced, I'm just kind of tired of the 70, 80,000 plus market. You know, it's fine. It's great to have extra models in there, but it's not doing anything to move us forward. That part of the market is saturated. So I'm looking forward to stuff like the Equinox EV, whether it makes it out next year, or at the very least get some dates. See what the price point ends up being on that. $30,000 seems unrealistic given where the Bolt is and things like that. But I just want to see something. I would love to see Tesla do it, but as one of the other callers said, I think they've probably got too much on their plate with the various models they still want to bring out, and the Semi and FSD and everything that's going on. So I think we have to look elsewhere. And there's a bunch of brands out there that do these more affordable cars well. In Europe, my family is from, they've got some decent options with like the MGs of the world, and who knows whether it's Volkswagen or Chevy or Ford, maybe bringing one of these more affordable 30K 35K models to the market. But I would love to see that coming in, and then the incentives piled on top, so you can get some people who maybe haven't been able to think about electric vehicles in the past into something that is just a capable, competent everyday commuter. and then that's the positive side. I do hope that's going to happen, at least in terms of announcements. The negative side, I think, although I'm a big proponent of the CCS network, I think it's perfectly viable for getting people places, and it has done for me across 15, 16 states this year, and tens of thousands of miles in the Ioniq 5. I think we're going to go back before we go forwards. I think there's a lot of funds washing around. There's a whole lot of providers coming in to try and get some of those, slice of those funds. I think you'll see the map for CCS and CHAdeMO to a lesser extent explode with the little wrenches that are in PlugShare coming soon. But I think a lot of those sites you're going to get, the disappointment of having a charge point paired, 125 kilowatt supposedly site, which actually ends up being 60 or 70 kilowatts because people can't get the level of power they need. I think there's going to be a lot of this kind of backsliding, and I just hope one of the major networks steps up to the plate, whether it's EVgo and their work with Pilot and the Flying J travel plazas, and then GM in metro areas, or ChargePoint figuring out how to get more of these powerful ChargePoint Express Plus units into the ground across the country. Somebody needs to step in to compete with Electrify America, and just give that second or third option. As the more the merrier, really, if they can get that kind of 150 kilowatt base level, and maybe do what states like Michigan and New York have done, and put in an effective state level network where there's a gap, because the national players haven't moved in. But I do see we're going to have to wait a bit, because these stations, they take 9-12 months minimum to come online, and we haven't seen those things flag up on the map yet. So even if they come into existence, in coming soon terms next year, it's going to be 2024 before we see them kind of in the ground and serving people.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they can do anything to speed up permitting processes, because that seems to be just the drag everywhere. You'll hear, with Tesla and anything, just trying to get permits approved and to start doing that groundwork seems to be a huge drag on the front end. But yeah, I definitely agree with you on the lower cost. I have a lot of friends who are ready to switch to an EV, but there just isn't one that they can afford yet. There are the older Leafs and things like that, but if they do any driving at all, it's not enough range for them. So yeah, more things like the Zoe or something like that, if that kind of thing could come here, would be great. But Ricky, what about you? What are you thinking the big EV thing is going to be next year?
Yeah, so somebody mentioned the Tesla Semi. That I think is just wildly fascinating. I'm actually doing an episode on Fully Charged, the Fully Charged YouTube channel, probably the first week of January. I've already made it. They'll probably release it in the first week of January, where I kind of break down some of the numbers, but I can give a little bit of some of the fun facts. A Tesla Semi, and these are just based on my projections and stuff, but so just rough idea. But a Tesla Semi is going to be roughly around 900 kilowatt hours in batteries, which is enough to make 11 Model Ys. So like in Tesla's mind, or if you're a Tesla fan, every 900 kilowatt hours of batteries that come off the line ready to go into a pack, Tesla's got it's an enviable position, because you've got all this business and you can't make any of them fast enough. But do we make 11 Ys or one Semi, right? So I did some numbers and kind of show which actually reduces the number of miles, and more interestingly, which actually will reduce the number of gallons of gasoline burned and stuff. So it's interesting. That'll be a fun episode. To the point about affordable EVs, I'd hate to be the Debbie Downer, but I don't think affordable EVs we're not even ready to have a really truly affordable EVs. I say that because the first step has to be for these automakers to feel like there's a large profit margin, that it's good business to build electric vehicles. That's how we get better investment. Like Tesla makes a really compelling product because their entire industry, their entire business is on the line, and so they've integrated and optimized in a way that some of the other car companies haven't. Like just look at the miles you can travel per kilowatt hour compared to some of the other companies. Some of them are just pathetic. And you don't realize it until you start car shopping. You think, like, I was honestly thinking, okay, maybe my next Tesla's or my next EV's not going to be a Tesla, but it's very hard to justify getting less range and having to pay more for charging, or and the reason why these cars aren't better is they're not really making a ton of money on some of these models. So if you're making like a $60,000 product and you're not really making any money, that's not good news long term. And what's probably more important for the true longevity of the industry is not that more people can afford them today, it's that these companies are happy to make EVs and to invest in making them better and cheaper. And then I think in a couple of years, the long tail, we will get to that point where we have affordable EVs. But like right now, I mean, there is the Chevy Bolt, which to me is like the bargain of all bargains. I think there's maybe a little bit of a, little stigma now with battery reliability and safety that people have. I know I would. I'm not sure I would want to park one in my garage, wake up to a house on fire or something. And some of those fears might be overinflated, admittedly, but there are some probably affordable EVs. But the problem with the Bolt, how much is Chevy making per Bolt they sell? Currently, Chevy's just trying to show everybody that we care, we could do this, but they haven't really proven out their model that they can survive in 10 years doing this yet. So but they're so desperate to try to get some sort of air in the room that Tesla's just kind of sucking out, that they're building some of these models like the Equinox. I think Steve, I believe, mentioned that the Equinox, which could be a really interesting car. What's their take going to be? How much are they going to make per car? Some of these things might not seem like that relevant today, but like where that company is 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it's going to absolutely matter. Which is one of those things that most people don't talk about why Tesla is doing well, is they actually make money on these things. That's why they're building factories and cranking them out, right? So the others have to kind of get to that point as well. And finally, I think when 2023, what we're going to see with rising inflation and the interest rate going up, we're going to see normalization in supply. We're going to actually be able to get an EV. My brother and I surprised my dad. He turned 70 this year with a car. We wanted to get him a car. It's not an EV. And the reason is you cannot get one. I mean, if I wanted to get him any EV, doesn't matter, we'd be paying $15,000 markups and stuff. And I was getting so frustrated talking to some of these salespeople. I was like, you know what, screw it. We'll get him a used third-row SUV. By the way, another thing I really want to see is 3-row SUVs. I have a gas SUV. I hate driving it, but I have to sometimes because I can't fit everybody in my Model 3. The Y is close, possibly could work.
Yeah,
but
the R1S
maybe,
is great, but it's pretty spendy.
Yes, I would love an R1S. I don't know about the charging around, like if I were to do long road trips, but so more stock of cars. I predicted 2023, and this might be totally off, but I predicted 2023 where you can walk into a VW dealership or like a Chevy dealership and go, that's a cool EV. What is that? Yeah, I'll take that, which sounds crazy from 2022, but I think that could happen. And so that's the bit of good news. And maybe the dealers don't have all the leverage to mark things up anymore.
Yeah, good ideas. What you were saying there about, being able to make them profitably. As Steve was talking, I was thinking about the Zoe, and I was thinking, I wish Toyota and Honda would be getting into that EV game. And then when you were talking, I was like, they can't do it profitably yet. But those are the kind of vehicles that, someone in their 20s, could afford. My first car was a 2-door Civic hatchback, which looking back now was a complete death trap, but it's what I could afford back then. And, eventually we need to get there, but yeah, it's a profit deal. Probably.
Real quick too, I have a question. Steve, what car are you in? That is a gorgeous interior. What is that?
It's Ioniq 5, so I'm nice and spacious here.
Oh,
we went with the Ioniq 5 over the EV6 for the space. We have 2 kids in the back regularly, and they need the big spread out and don't touch each other space. So it's been well for that.
It's an amazing looking interior. Nice. I love that car. I do.
Yeah, I think everybody had really good comments there, and I'm pretty much on the same page. I think it'll be interesting to see where FSD goes. I doubt we're going to get version 11 by the end of the year. That would be a big shock, since
Yeah.
it seems like it's one of those things like, yeah, it should be ready, and then they give it to employees to test out, and like, oh no, this isn't ready, bring it back. But I think we'd all rather have them do that than push something out that isn't safe. As frustrating as it is sometimes to wait for updates. But
You know, I've been impressed with Brian.
what's that?
You're on Starlink. No, Ricky.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that when we started. If this fails, it's on Starlink.
He's
But
on Starlink.
it's
It's
been
been working
holding up.
perfect.
It's been
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, you haven't stuttered.
He's
a
got a
thread.
video. Ricky, go to his YouTube page. He's got a video of him putting it on his roof, drilling holes in the roof, and yeah, he's got.
It's not the greatest install video in the world, but
Yeah, he did a
it's
good
there.
job.
But
I think
it's
I've
been
seen it,
working
Brian.
for us.
I've seen your Starlink install video. It's from a
Okay.
few months ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from a few months ago. I remember seeing it. Yeah.
Brian, you must not have any trees in the way obstructing.
Well, I had to put it on the very far end of my house from where I wanted to put it, because I do have a lot of tall trees around most of my house, but there's just one section that kind of juts out. So I literally, this was kind of lucky because I didn't measure as well as I thought I did. The way I bolted it in, I cut into the attic just right inside the eave, and like another 2 inches over, and I would have been half in the attic and half out the attic. So
We
luckily it's all inside.
we put it up about a year and a half ago at our cabin, which is on an island in the middle of Lake Vermilion. And so we have electricity, and now we have Starlink out there. And we had to cut 2 trees down because we kept getting dropouts, like obstructions. Like Netflix works great, but Zoom calls are terrible.
One thing I'll say about Tesla, the video quality has been great for me in this like hour plus meeting. My picture has not been the greatest because of low ambient light, but overall viewing everybody else's videos and audio quality has been spectacular. And I'm on I have premium connectivity, and it's the video quality has been amazing, and it looks very good.
I was wondering, if we were showing up well, or I
I'll
guess.
send you a couple pictures and videos, Brian, that I took during it.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
What if somebody didn't have premium connectivity and paid the $10? How would you get on Zoom?
You can't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
you
think
could
you have
maybe
to be
through
on
Wi-Fi, but
yeah, maybe.
I can't believe somebody would be that cheap, $10 a month. It's so darn cheap. Unlimited.
It all adds up, though.
Yeah, but unlimited, people don't realize what they're getting. You know what unlimited plans cost? They're like $150, $200 on AT&T, and you get it for $10. That's how much. If you want unlimited, like a hotspot, you're talking over $100 a month.
We had unlimited through, I think it was AT&T actually, and the Bolt EV, and that's something we've gone back from. We haven't got that in the Ioniq. I think the EV6 has it through Verizon, but we had amazing. The kids loved that. And that was $15 a month. So $10 a month is a steal.
Yeah, it's like better than 100.
You do. Did you say you do have it in the Ioniq 5?
No, they didn't
just
put
in
in
the
a
Bolt?
Wi-Fi hotspot. Yeah,
Okay.
they did one in the EV6, so you can do it. And they went through Verizon. I think it's more like $15-20 for either of those. But yeah, there's a few things that we haven't got in this that the Bolt did deliver surprisingly.
I'm
It's
wondering,
actually less than 10 a month if you buy the annual.
you get it cheaper for your paying it. Jason, I'm wondering, since he's got the new plow with a new processor, and I wonder if that system's got the capability of going to a hotspot. I mean, they don't have it on, but could they upload a software update? Is it compatible with hotspot? I don't know.
no, it's not, and they do that intentionally so they don't share it. Unfortunately, my Plaid is not Steam compatible. Mine's too old, so I don't have the tilt screen, and I can't get that.
Who cares anyway?
Can you get the tilt screen?
No. As of the last time I talked to Tesla service, no. And Elon did promise an upgrade so we could get Steam, but it's I'm not
Yeah,
gonna hold
you
my
gotta
breath.
pay $2,000 for the 16 gig upgrade.
How much
Yeah.
was it?
2,000
Oh,
for 2,000 for 8 gigs of RAM. That's wow.
well, can we do that on the 2020 Model Y? You gotta update the whole computer. No, okay. We're out there, yeah, okay.
They haven't offered that in the Wire 3.
You said something about the battery. I don't know that.
Yeah. So I haven't with the Atom. So yeah, but to go to a Ryzen, they haven't offered the upgrade kit for that because part of it has to do with the battery. Yeah,
That don't make sense.
lithium. And the voltage is different, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the major reason, the voltage and the wiring harness.
And the wiring harness, everything's different. It's not
Yeah.
just swapping out a lithium battery for your
I guess it's not a big deal. Get the dog got the in-camera dog cam. I tried messing with that.
Well, yeah, that's the plus and minus of them moving so fast on production stuff. Is, there could be a pretty dramatic change just getting a vehicle 1 month rather than another.
I heard there was gonna be an update. That, like if your locks are frozen outside, you tap on your app on your phone, it will release the doors. And that never happened, did it?
Yeah, it did. I have it on my
Yep. It
Where's
is.
that at?
It's
It
a
runs
separate
at a
button in the app. You
Where's it at?
won't change your quick buttons or whatever, right?
Yeah,
And,
you have to add it to your quick buttons on the display.
you can add a fifth one. I added the emission test to for my fifth quick button.
Oh, good point. I gotta do that. Thank you for the tip.
What do you mean on the phone?
Yeah. So you get 4 by default. You can add a fifth. It's not so. It's a little hack the way you got to do it. But
What
yeah.
the heck is that at?
It's the buttons on the if I can find mine. It's
They
the
have a YouTube
quick
video on
buttons
it.
up at the top here.
You can change those. You can add a fifth one, Brian, actually, if you wanted to.
I mean, like I got lock, got fan, I got unlock supercharger, and I got the front.
If you hold the button down, it brings up the other ones and you can swap it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, so I just did it. I'm gonna take out the front. So which one would it be that would be called?
For the unlocking unlatching the door without that one.
There it
It
is.
says unlatched door.
There it is. So you hold on.
Unlatched door.
So you hold on to it and then hit save. They work.
You just drag it up to the 4 place or whatever.
And if you keep dragging one up to the same spot, like with 2 fingers, you can
Oh,
get it.
thanks, man. Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So
The
like
live
on
stream
mine,
has
I
been a
have-
success. Someone learned something.
like
I didn't know-
John, I have unlock, I have fan, defrost, sentry, and emissions test.
They kind of get that hidden. I mean, how many people know that you got to hold down on the button? I suppose
I
Dave
think
knows that.
I think an update or two ago it kind of made the news rounds, but yeah, you kind of forget about that.
I
I'd
think I
forgotten.
learned about it on a YouTube short that I saw.
Okay.
Okay, that works. But you can add another one up there too.
I had to get rid of the open the trunk because I kept doing it when I not locked my phone and put it in my pocket. My neighbor's like, "Your trunk's open." Like, damn it.
You know, it only drive. It only the front will only drive at 15 miles an hour if it's unlatched.
Oh, I never put that in the quick. I would never. Put
I
that.
accidentally bought mine one time, and it was it's got to so so it doesn't fly up, But that's good now.
Yeah,
So-
the driver's
Oh, what does it unlock? Just the driver's side door, or all of them?
just driver's side.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, if you take your car through a car wash and it's sub-zero and the locks freeze, there's a chance you won't be able to close your door, your driver door, when you get in the car. Like it won't stay closed. And then the car limits to 15 miles an hour as well.
I go to heated car wash, so that's why.
I mean, everybody
Resist
talks
the
about.
temptation. That's what I tell people.
I don't know. I mean, everybody talks about having the 3 and Y's handles freeze shut. I've only had it happen once, where I had to actually pound on the handle to like break it so I could pop it open.
So how do you add 5? How do you add 5? You can.
I just did it last week. There's videos on it. You'd be better served by searching
Okay.
YouTube than listening to Glenn ramble about how to do it. But, yeah.
Okay.
Tell us
It's
a
a little
story,
tricky.
Glenn.
Well, it took me a minute, more than I'm willing to admit.
That's good.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this. I was wondering about that. And they had an update just before the holiday update. There was an update like a week before. Brian didn't get it. And I don't know what that update really was, all bugs or what. I don't know.
I got a bug update. I got a bug update to the holiday update today. I'm not on FSD, so I got 2022, was it
I'm an FSD.
44.25.3 today, and I was on .2.
The problem
I
is,
don't know what the change was.
to replace my Model Y, I have performance model with FSD. It would be cost me $20,000 more to replace it because I paid $6,000 for FSD, and then the car was right around 60 something, and it'd be $20,000. That's a lot of money, I mean, extra.
Yeah.
I just keep it, Brian. We're gonna keep it to like Kyle Connor, right? 100,000 miles. Huh?
Oh, I hope I get
You're
2 or
halfway there,
300,000 out of it. And at the
Oh,
rate I'm going, I might just do it.
Brian likes to drive.
Dave, I have a question for you before we go. You said that Kyle used one of your cars for a while, for a couple months, is it? And the question I have is, because I was trying to find this out, like he drives a lot of different cars. Is that the way he does it? Is he leases or borrows from other people, or does he buy these things and sell them?
Oh, well, that's a good question. So I decided that I wanted to buy a Mach-E, and he called around and found one in Kearney, Nebraska.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah, so I drove up there and met him there, and I drove the car back to his place in Fort Collins, and then I went up. I had a couple of weeks to help my buddy up in Wyoming, so I let him use the Mach-E for that period of time, like nearly 3 weeks. And then I went back to his house and took my car home, and he followed me in the Model Y home. But generally, I think Kyle gets dealer cars from dealers or manufacturers to drive. I've known Kyle a long time. He's a really neat kid, and a really excellent driver. But my heartburn with a lot of the YouTube reviewers of cars is they don't tell it the way it is, because if they did, the manufacturer wouldn't give them another one. And for me, when I purchased my Mach-E, I was just being honest. It's the worst UI on the planet, and those kinds of things. So yeah, it was an okay car. I mean, it was nice. It drove like a Ford. It was great. I moved it on to a friend of ours that needed a car, and she's now driving it, Trisha. So
Does she still have it?
she still has it, and what's amazing is it's a long backstory. I won't bother everybody, but she still has it, and she we saw her the other day, and she says, I get more people that stop by and want to talk to me about that car. So we've promoted the EV through her now, and she's doing that.
Yeah,
that first edition blue is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And all my cars I take to Atlanta and get them full PPF'd and ceramic coated, just because where I live it's dirty and I don't have to clean them.
Interesting, Mr. Car Wash I go to. You're bringing up, it's just quite a coincidence with the car wash here today. I got unlimited washes. They go to high-end car wash, and I'm parked in the heated area, and they're wiping my car down. And guess what's sitting right next to me? A Ford GT Mustang. I look at, is that what I think it is? And I said, that's all electric. Yeah, so yeah, that the Ford GT. They got a better UI in it, Dave? The Ford GT Mustang, or?
I think it's the same, John. I think they use an operating system called QNX, which is older than dirt. And
That's
the UI suffers from it. And it's just not up to date, right? For the first nearly year, I never got an update. And I finally got an update, but they don't tell you what it does. And you're not sure. Now they're at least kind of telling you, but I moved the car on about 6 months ago. So I
Yeah, I
don't know.
saw you moved it on it.
Yeah.
Kyle,
Is
the
is she
video-
that,
usually,
John-
is she
John,
usually using
uh,
CarPlay then for her interface?
I don't know if she's using the navigation built in. It doesn't know where New York is, by the way. But she may be using CarPlay or whatever Android Auto. I don't know. For me, it's 2010-ish. I don't like that, frankly.
You
Yeah,
get a lot of, you get a lot more views when you got those young ladies on there. Did your count go up?
Well, as a matter of fact, yeah, I think so. I get a bigger view count, certainly.
And by the way, Tom Mulligan is first time he shows his wife on video going to Christmas. I watched the video on the F-150. He went to her father, Marilyn, his wife. First time she's ever been on video on all this. And then you guys remember Inside EVs tomorrow morning at 8:30 Central Time on Kyle Connor and the Ford. You guys watch that? Brian watches it, but
yeah, I try to catch it.
I watch replays. I don't watch it live.
I get on there, make comments, and Dominic hasn't bought a new vehicle yet, but I don't know.
Let me, before you guys go, let me just ask a question. I'm a big proponent of EVs, and I do a lot of test drives for people where I just put them in the car and then have them drive. Do you guys do that? And do you feel comfortable enough to do that? I find
Yes.
that
I do.
gets the point across to people better.
100%.
100%. I actually this summer I went to as many EV ride and drive events as I possibly could in the state of Minnesota, La Crosse, Wisconsin, and stuff like that. And one thing I like about your video is when you have somebody doing that, you get those honest opinions, and once you realize, hey, I'm just doing this just because I enjoy it so much, I want to make sure other people know about it, and they're actually surprised that you're not associated with the dealership, you don't have a sales pitch, and then you give them an honest opinion about it, which they definitely appreciate that.
You filter out the commercials too, but I have
Yeah.
YouTube, premium.
Well,
I'll say honestly, I don't trust people with yokes yet. So
well, that's
I
probably
haven't given a
true.
lot of loans on the yoke yet.
Yeah,
Jason, you've got a pretty
think you're
strong
right. I wouldn't
performance.
either. Not on a plaid anyway.
I don't know.
I feel special,
I've
man.
had one friend drive my car, and then he bought an EV. Lots of friends riding it and like it. None of them have asked to drive it though, but I haven't been to any events like Brian and Todd have talked about or gone to. It just the timing hasn't worked out or whatever. So for me, I would be open to it. I just haven't.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, I actually brought my car to one of the events and entered it in for people to drive. And what I find is, and I found this early on too, and it probably comes from my background as a flight instructor, is to go through a pre-brief of the car, at least the basic functions and what to expect before they get in, because it does operate a lot differently, as we know from gas vehicles. So once I do that and answer questions, and we get in the car, and they seem to do just fine with it.
You put it in chill mode, Don? You got a Tesla?
We walk through the screens, to get the seat set up, the mirrors set up.
I put them in chill mode. I don't let them in performance. I got a performance. I don't want them going through a wall.
Yeah, I don't have performance, and I just leave it in standard. But I usually set regen to low, because that's what throws people the most when they first get into it.
Exactly. That was my friend who actually bought a VW. The one pedal driving threw him for a loop at first. He loved it, but it was so different. The first time you're driving it, like, whoa, wait, what?
Just like a golf cart.
And once
Well,
you
the thing is,
Oh,
with
go
that
ahead.
regen stuff like that, most of the events they had a path that you would go around, and usually, like you said, I would educate them about how to drive, how to open and close the door, and then you would have to turn around or something like that, and I get them used to the one pedal, kind of like what Dave does. We get some used to get the feel of it, and then okay, then you slowly step it up a little bit at a time, and like you said, you gauge on how comfortable they're feeling and when they drive in the vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to.
where I take people, we can always pull over and stop if they freak out or whatever, but generally it's held up pretty well. But I do show them the basics. When I first started doing it, I went into the whole menus and everything, and I found that it was an absolute overload for people. They were nervous anyway.
Yeah.
And I started going through all these menu items, and I just decided, I'm just going to show them a few basic things. It drives like a regular car. It's got a brake and an accelerator. And once you get them down there, I take them down the driveway and we're good. And then I take them down a 2-lane road and there's no traffic generally. And by then they're getting comfortable. And way before we even get into big traffic, it's pretty good. So the route that I usually take them, it gets them a little more comfortable. And as you can see in live video, you can see the look on their faces that they get a little bit more confident as they drive along. But
Dave, when I got in, it's a good point. I got into Tesla. It took me about 5 days to figure the whole the screen. I mean, it's like learning your iPad or operating system.
I don't know. I just used chill mode for the first time last Friday, so. And I've had my car for a year, only because it was ice packed streets, and I was like, well, I'll just be safe. So
I want to throw this out, non-Minnesota. Everybody asks me, oh, you guys get over because you don't pay gas tax. Well, every year when I buy, we tell them license tabs or stickers, whatever you want to call them. We pay $75 on top of it. What do you guys pay, non-Minnesota people, for your?
I think we pay a couple $100 in North Carolina.
There's nothing extra in Massachusetts as it stands right now.
Oh, you get over on, you see you drive the roads for free then, huh?
Pretty much, except for the tax we pay on charging, I guess.
What about Wisconsin, John?
Wisconsin is $75 extra for hybrid and $150 for fully electric a year.
Oh,
Why?
yeah, but your tabs are cheaper, so it works out the same, right?
Well, my tabs are $400.
Well, we wish Jesse Ventura was still our governor. We'd have cheap tabs, right? Yeah.
License stickers, or I said tabs to Wisconsin people, and they go, "What are tabs?"
On tab.
They call them stickers. Right there, John. You call them stickers.
Stickers.
John, what do you call it? You put on the for your renew your plate.
I grew up in Minnesota. I call it tabs.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm from North Carolina and California originally. What the hell is a tab?
Yeah.
When you renew your license or your plates every year, and you get the little stickers that go on the bottom saying the new year.
Okay.
We call those tabs.
Okay. Yeah, in North Carolina, we've got a little sticker that goes over the old one that shows up the new year. So I guess
it's like soda and pop.
Yeah.
When I was in the Army, you could tell people, northern people call it pop and southern people call it soda.
Yeah.
Hey.
And Georgia calls it Coke.
I think the word tab originally was
everything is
tear off tab.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But interesting, Dave, when I order my tabs Minnesota, I order them online. I got amateur call plates, and they actually put my license, my call sign, my call sign on the tab. So if somebody tries to steal it.
They do that in North Carolina because people will cut them off and glue them on their own license plate if they don't do that.
Some people say you're good. But hey, they want to get the antennas on, Dave. Hey, I got to tell, since Dave's live, people always go, "What's that?" I get a little. What's that antenna on your car? Is that GPS? I got a dual band, the Anytone dual bander in the car for DMR and analog. It fits perfect in the Model Y, and I know it's ham radio. They wonder what the antenna is. See, not many ham radio operators have radios in their Teslas. It's very few. So
yeah, we can do it. It's easy to do. Do a little inverter noise at certain speeds, but
I feel naked without it.
Yeah, but I recommend that everybody give, if you feel comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you guys know, you talk to these people, they ask all these questions, and you're promoting the car, and oh, it drives great, and it's one pedal, and they get glazed over. And I find that if you just, John, and you know, Wisconsin John, is that they get into an overload situation when you feed them too much stuff. So I just say, look, you want to drive it? Sit in
Agree
the
with you.
car, have them set their seat and their mirrors up, show them a few basics, and let's go.
You want to freak somebody out? I was at the Ramsey VA. It's a level. It's an outpatient clinic for the VA, and nurses always love my Tesla. Dave, by the way, these girls, they want to see my. Always, can we see your Tesla? And I used Sentry mode. The car was parked in the parking lot. I says, I'm gonna stand up by the front of it. It was at 5 o'clock. They're ready to go home. I said, I'm gonna have the car drive up to the front and pick me up. And they go, what? And I said, yeah, the car, it went around the pilasters and everything. Somebody started chasing after and they waved, no, the car's okay. And the nurses took their phones out. Can we record this? I said, go ahead. And they said, my son loves this kind of stuff.
Word of mouth by far is the best if you can do it.
Well,
my best test drive's 5 days. I gave Andrew, my neighbor, a drive in it. He bought one in 5 days.
You ever use Summons? You ever freak somebody out on Summons?
Oh yeah, I quit doing that because it freaks people out.
Start chasing after the car and so Dave.
That's good. Well, you guys take lots of trips. I lost my 308,000 free supercharger miles.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Yeah, well, that's right. My model, my 2020 X is unlimited miles, and my wife's S has unlimited miles. So if I need it, I can take those cars.
Oh, your 2020's got unlimited miles on
the Model X does, yeah.
Oh, I remember when I bought my Model Y in 2020, they were offering that, yeah. Because I got the Model Y. I think
if you're lucky enough to have got it, keep it. But it's still not that expensive.
No, I charge it home anyway. You know.
Pass the word. Make up some business cards with your name on it and put Tesla owner and hand them out. Really helps.
Yeah, there's
we're rolling.
Just make sure I cover the info, but I've got one right here that's pretty good.
Well, that's okay. It's a Google phone number. You can still call it if you want. Yeah, get a Google number too, by the way, phone number that sends it to your cell phone, and then you can hand the cards out, and you're not going to get spammed.
Good old scammers calling it, yeah.
That's what I do. I actually use Google Voice as my primary number, and like you said, forward it to my cell phone number.
Right.
It makes it so easy.
Right.
You want extended warranty on your Tesla?
Sorry?
Those guys call up every other day about extended warranty on a car I owned 5 years ago.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God.
Hey, John, don't answer the number if you don't know who it is. Let it go to voicemail.
Yeah.
There's too many of that. It's just too much.
Too much.
Then delete the voicemail.
We never even answer our home phone anymore.
So, Steve, I just wanted to ask you, because you're our lone non-Tesla owner here. Do you use CarPlay in the Ioniq 5? I thought you do.
I use Android Auto
and Android
primarily, yeah. But that's what makes up for the all the OEMs have pretty sucky user interfaces from my the limited experience I have with other manufacturers. But that makes it up with Google or Apple, I assume, not knowing CarPlay that well, because you're always getting the updates. The maps are always up to date. So it's over the air via your phone. As long as your phone's up to date with the apps, then you have the functionality.
Sure. Yeah, because the ID4 owners I talked to, I don't know that they've ever used the in-car system. They just link it to their phone and so I was
funny you ask. It's funny you ask, because I'm actually here now doing I just got battery preconditioning in the Ioniq 5 that shipped with some of the later model year in 22s, but mine was one of the early ones, so we've only just got it. So super excited in the middle of winter to get that, but you have to use the native navigation. It won't figure it out. If you try and add a new destination and navigate with Google Maps, it'll cut it all off, so it won't heat the battery. So I'm now back into Hyundai's world of trying to navigate to chargers that don't exist, and I'm at a new EVgo one, so it's not their fault in this case. It only opened last week, so I don't expect them to have it, but everything else is still pretty clunky and like it's from 2005, so getting used to that again.
Can you go, like after you've navigated, can you go back into Android Auto, or does it?
Yeah, I can always be in Android Auto, and I'm still testing it, so I don't know if just being in Android Auto will shut off the heating as well. But what I've got at the moment is that if I tried to navigate to this location in Android Auto, it's going to shut off the native navigation. So got to see. Hopefully, I can still play music and podcasts and stuff whilst the native navigation's on. But it's all a learning curve for me at the moment because it was only yesterday we got it.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to ask you what your next video is going to be, but it sounds like it might be about that.
Pretty much it. It's pretty late now, but an all-nighter might get it out tomorrow. We'll see.
Well, Steve, what's your channel?
It's called Plug and Play EV. It's it's it is what it is. It's mostly non-Tesla stuff because my in-laws do have a Model 3, and I love kind of getting their perspective on the non-Tesla side because they're so baked into the Tesla world that when they step outside it, it's interesting to see what they think. But it works for us, so we're pretty happy.
Yeah, and you've got that Bolt experience too, and so yeah, you've kind of been with it for a while, and now you've got the new Ioniq 5, and yeah, it's great content. I obviously don't own the vehicles, but I like keeping up on what's going on.
Well, it's
with
you
your
don't need
charging
a
stuff
plug.
too, and
Oh,
you
no,
got
you
it
don't
good
need a
up
plug,
there.
but you don't need a plug, but I appreciate your you step into you're obviously an electric vehicle advocate just across the board, right? You are willing to step into other cars. I love the EV owner kind of guides that you've been doing with the Rivian and visiting the Polestar spaces, and I think that deserves a shout out because it's an important part to bring content to everybody.
Hey, Steve,
I watch all of them. I'm a mess that way, but yeah.
Me too. With the Electrify America issue with a cold, do you guys think it's someone with heat, it's the coolant's getting too thick or something where it can't flow through the motor? Or?
I just can't tell. I mean, we really don't get that cold here, at least in Boston area. There's one of these newer Signet stations in Buffalo. Obviously, I'm not going to drive over there right now because that's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
But if I get a chance, I'll test one of these.
Well, obviously, it's a heat problem, and being in amateur radio and stuff. And Dave's first thing. Well, electric heaters. I wouldn't want to do that, but hey, heat tape on the farm. Wrap the start. That'd be the cheap Band-Aid. Wrap everything with heat tape and plug it in. What do you think, Dave? If I could fix it, huh? I don't know.
I think that we're going through this trying to analyze it, and I think Kyle made a good point in one of his going back and forth. It shouldn't be us testing it. I mean, it's fun to do, and the videos are good to make, but it
should have been put in a chamber. I used to work for a refrigeration company. We put a refrigerator in a chamber that's like 150 degrees down to -10 below. I mean, they should have tested these in a climate-controlled chamber, which of course never happened. Right.
Well, so I wonder how desperate they were to get these out. There was a lot of pressure on them to improve reliability. They seem to have accelerated through September, October, November, getting these things in the ground. I wonder if there was a lack of, if they moved that timeline too quickly. But they have testing grounds. They got testing grounds in Arizona. They got testing grounds way up in Canada and in the north kind of reaches of the US. So there's places to test these. And as Brian said, this isn't new to people. Norway is the leading EV market in the world. People have done this before. There are companies that do it. So maybe we need to get some of those Finnish chem power companies that are, living
Yeah.
in these conditions rather than
What are you
companies
gonna
out
do?
of.
Rip them out again? They're gonna have to find the failing components in them, and I mean, I don't know. It's just
There's not that many in the ground. I mean, there's they've retrofitted maybe 50 of these sites tops, and then maybe more now, but there's not that many of these things in the ground. So, and they're not, with the ones where they are, with the number of them that are in cold places will probably be single digits, maybe low double digits. So it should be quite easy to figure out, but it's turnaround time and how many people are going to have problems before they do it.
I wish our power companies would. Well, I don't know. There's not, like Dave said, there's not a lot of money in this, but for the power companies, they got all the excess power, and they're the guys that are supplying the power. I heard something about XL Energy working on some. Did you hear something about that, Brian? Putting in,
Well, I know they've got kind of a new plan that they're rolling out. I think it's mostly for home charging, but I think
Oh,
also working with people who are gonna put level 3 charging or fast DC fast charging in. I don't know that they're necessarily. Maybe they were talking about putting in their own. So that'll be interesting if
That'd be
there's a
profitable.
Electrify America, an EV Go, and a XL Energy station. It'll be interesting to see how the pricing on that works, or reliability and uptime and all that stuff. But competition would be good.
yeah, we got power companies should get involved with this, I think. But,
You got to remember as well, like it's what the site is trying to draw people to. So
Walmart.
a lot of these places, I don't think they make a lot of money on gas, right? Gas stations, isn't it what they sell in the convenience store? The EV
Yeah.
drivers are there for 15, 20 minutes. There's these places, all of these convenience chains. There's a lot of, if you look at the convenience store news, there's a lot of interest in electric vehicle charging. It's just, it needs the volume of people and the adoption to actually have.
It's funny, Steve, or I go on the quick trips all the time, and even though I drive an electric car, I go in there and get my, my pizza or my snacks, my coffee, and I get a kick every time I go. Well, they passed a law now. Everybody pays at the pump now. So they used to ask me, "Do you have any fuel?" But the state law in Minnesota, everything's paid at the pump now because all the drive offs. But I still use gas stations. I mean,
Yeah, half the time I'm stopping behind one. There's a lot of these places are in gas stations, at least in New York. A lot of their agreements are over in some of the local chains, and I'm happy to support them. It's just it's not always the best place to stop, but they, with 15, 20-minute stop times, that's just enough to give them some business and maybe grab a snack, and you're on your way.
It's a big chain gas station that you probably know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, there's Buc-ee's and
Buc-ee's. Oh, I wish we had
the
Buc-ee's
Flying
here.
Ch's and the Love's travel stations and all of those.
Talk to somebody was at a Love's. Where in the heck is Love's close to here? Oh, there's one
I
in
think
Forest
in
Lake.
Iowa
Wait, is there a
and
Love's
maybe in South Dakota.
Is it in Minnesota? No.
They're through the middle part of the states, a lot of them.
Yeah, this.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to get out of here. It's
it's
awful
11:30.
nice seeing y'all. You guys have a wonderful time and a great
Happy
new
New
year.
Year. You too,
And I'll
buddy.
see you on the next call. You guys carry on.
All right,
Thanks,
you
thanks.
too.
Thanks for stopping
Nice
in,
seeing you,
John.
Dave.
Dave.
Nice to meet you, Dave.
Okay,
Thanks,
guys.
Dave. Happy New Year.
All right, happy New Year, guys. See you later.
Maybe we
Thanks.
should do a 6 months video, maybe, Brian, huh? We'll do it twice a year. Why not?
We'll see. We're
have
coming
to.
up on 3 hours, so
Who cares?
Yeah, like
I don't know if
Dave,
people can
I'm
take
on,
this more than once a year.
I'm retired. You didn't have to write
like Dave,
nothing
I'm
up.
on East Coast time, so I'm gonna have to jump as well.
Let's get out of here.
Wife will be.
Well, nice meeting you guys. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna check out
thanks
Steve's
for
channel.
stopping in, Steve. Appreciate it. I know it's
Yeah,
late.
thanks so much. I
Nice to meet
appreciate
you.
all your work.
Check your
Cheers,
channel out,
guys.
Steve.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
John, you had a channel too, right?
I do, yeah. It's just
What-
under my name.
Well, John Van. Let's see if I can find you. Hold on here before you go. John. YouTube on the
I
phone.
have a channel, but there's nothing on there, so no.
I
Well,
think I might be a subscriber though, Glenn.
Oh, good
Van.
lord, the one video. And there's some concert videos. It's more non-car or electric car
Yeah.
stuff. Car
I
stuff.
could join it too.
Yeah, I'm not a huge channel, but I'm catching up to Brian. So
Yeah,
That's
you're gonna
Are you
pass me.
1,000? Are you 1,000 yet?
1,400. and some
Oh
change.
yeah, you're
Well,
gonna
I'm-
pass me easy.
Well, I'm subscribed already. Huh, must be from last year.
Yeah, your FSD content is really good. So I
I-
enjoy
I was
watching it.
very happy when my wife said I could buy a drone. So
Yeah,
Ooh.
You gonna go 4K?
I am 4K. Yep.
That's the way to go. I saw some of the 4K video. Oh my God. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Early, it took me a while to learn this when I made videos, but YouTube takes a few hours to render to 4K. So
hmm
like when I would finish editing a video, I'd upload it and have it go live right away. And that's a mistake because it's 360p at best for like hours. And then, if you
Did you just schedule it then? Like you just say like, oh, schedule for later. Or...
That's what I started doing. I schedule it for at least 6 hours, sometimes 12 if it's a longer video.
yeah.
There's nothing that's that time sensitive. I have to get it out right away.
Yeah, if I've got a long 4K video, I need to have it done at least the day before when I want to release it.
What are you getting on uplink on Starlink now, Brian?
I don't know. Fast enough to do a Zoom meeting?
I was getting about 20 up at our cabin. I've got Gen 1 Starlink up there.
So
No,
Brian,
I've
I
got-
can't remember, do you have the flat one or do you have
I have the round one.
the round one?
I
Not
know a lot
the
of
big dish
sailboats
face?
that got them out in the middle of nowhere. I watched this thing called Sailing Doodles, places I'll never go to, and they got to, they got to upload. They're out in the middle of nowhere in some island on the Pacific, and they, no electricity or nothing. They're uploading, videos from Starlink. Kind of.
Yeah.
They got generators and solar and batteries on the boat, but it's a must for these YouTubers that travel all over the place.
I used to render videos and they'd be like 20 gigabytes and they'd take 6 hours to upload. And I was watching some videos on how to render differently. So now my videos are typically like 4 to 6 or 7 gigs.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're usually up within an
What's the
hour.
camera you on? I'm on an HD camera right now, and you're pretty clear.
Yeah, this is a Sony A7S III that I use. It's my primary camera.
How's my audio? How's my video look to you? I'm just running a Logitech H3D.
It's good. I think Zoom caps at HD anyways for any camera, but and then I run it through Ecamm software so I can get the different effects.
Hey Todd, what's that say in your shirt? Got a what? It says it backwards. Oh, got a. Okay. Like a dream.
Gotham Dream Cars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
I
switched
muted.
cameras,
Yeah.
so
Yes, I
this
unmuted.
one's
Yes,
not.
actually a YouTube channel. So the guy has where he rents out exotic cars and stuff like that, and he's on the East Coast, I want to say.
When they beat the crap out of them and find them in the desert, I've seen that one.
No, not that one. No, this is a different guy.
Well, I wouldn't mind driving a Lamborghini. I hate that, but a lot of these guys, the supercars are going hybrid, and these guys that don't like it. And then I heard something in Vancouver, Canada, or some downtown. In the next few years, they're going to ban all gasoline vehicles from downtown.
Well, Norway starting on Monday or Sunday, no more non-EV sales.
Oh, really?
I think it's January 1st, 2023.
Wow.
I'm
not sure if that's for every fleet
Yeah.
or just like residential, like personal use.
The thing with us, we got, most of us got decent jobs, and we got live in a house, and we got a decent income probably. And how about these people who could barely make it living in an apartment, and could barely drive in beater cars and stuff? I always thought, how are they ever going to afford an EV and then maintain it? I don't see how it's going to happen. Lower income people, it's going to be rough for them. I mean, just think about it. How are they going to do it?
Well, maybe like some of the bands that they've talked about here are on new sales. So used could still have a longer tail. those are higher emission vehicles, but like I said, if you're 20 years old and need a two-door Civic hatchback that's, 8 years old, you know, I think those kind of vehicles will still be available, but obviously, Tesla is still expensive, but those early Model S's that are still running are a lot cheaper than, some other things. Personally, I'd, get a new Bolt if I needed something cheap.
There was a guy I thought
cheaper.
had a Model S that had lifetime, something about motor or something about in it where it went bad. They don't even offer it no more, and he got a brand new. I think the motor went bad in it. It was lifetime.
I've heard like someone on a 60D went to a 70, 75 or 85D battery. Like they just replaced it with
Yeah.
a slightly used or refurbished, obviously higher capacity battery.
Yeah, Sean Mitchell had that happen with his. He's a
He was
realtor
one, but
in
Someone
Colorado.
else I was just reading on Twitter. It wasn't
Oh,
on
maybe, yeah.
YouTube or whatever,
Oh.
but-
And another thing is, okay, say your battery pack is out of warranty. You got lifetime. Lifetime supercharging. Okay, to buy a brand new battery pack, are they going to allow you to do that?
Yeah, they should be able to. They'll allow you to buy it. So I think it's attached to the car, not the battery pack.
Yeah,
For
so I
the
mean, let's
lifetime
say it's
charging.
8,000 for the even a refurbished battery. I mean, would that be worth it depending on the condition of the rest of the car? Probably, right?
Yeah,
Buy a
if
refurbished
everything else is in good shape.
I mean,
Yeah.
it all
Then it becomes,
depends.
like you said, then it becomes the frame. Is
Yep.
the frame and the suspension and everything else, is it worth it?
Maybe
No.
a sort of car. I don't know, but
Now, when CarMax gets the car, okay, somebody sells a car to CarMax. You buy a car to CarMax. See if it's got lifetime. Do you lose that, or only if it goes back to Tesla? Like, anybody know about that, or?
I don't
I-
know what the current thing is.
Ask that question again.
Well, if somebody, well, you say a lifetime vehicle, see if it's got lifetime mileage and somebody sells it to CarMax, you buy it from to CarMax, which I see people buy all the time. Or do you keep the unlimited supercharger miles, or do you lose it only if it goes back to Tesla and they sell it?
I know if it goes back to Tesla, you lose it, but I don't know what the current state of,
Oh,
I
private
thought if
sales
it's
is.
third party to third party, you kept it, but who knows?
I look around
Yeah.
I actually look around once in a while, and there's some old Model S, but these prices are still way up there with the unlimited supercharging. But
I don't really know about the yoke, but I would I wouldn't know if I want to go back to the vertical screen. Like,
Kyle wants to switch the yoke out. I don't know how he's going to do that.
oh, he drove one already that did.
Yeah, some
Yeah,
people have done
third-party
it.
stuff. There's third-party stuff you can get that can switch it out.
Yeah,
Oh,
and they even put the
Stocks.
what do you call it, on the stock, but
Yeah, the capacitive touch stuff you can add
Oh.
that. Yeah.
I didn't bring this up. I got a brand new garage door opener last 4 months. It's got the QI. It uses Wi-Fi to open through the phone and stuff. Tesla had the update on and I signed up on it, and it works great because it's Wi-Fi, and I could halfway down the block I can open my door. This is the only issue I don't like. It's a 30-day trial, and then you got to pay
$10 a month.
$74
$10 a
a
month.
year.
Yeah, $50 a year or so. Yeah.
No, $74 a year or
Yeah,
something.
70, something like that.
What the
Yeah.
hell? What the heck's that all about? Like, you can buy 5 years, or it was 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years. 10 years is like $300. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I bought the HomeLink thing for my car before that was available, but I don't know that I'd do it with the subscription base.
Oh, I just
Subscriptions, everybody's got a subscription for everything now.
look at
and
365.
pick
Yeah,
and
internet.
choose.
Yeah.
Well,
I
here's
mean,
the
I did
thing,
I
John.
did the FSD on subscription a couple different months, and I actually did it for 2 months and had the beta like last fall. But then I was like, well, I'm not going to use this in the winter. I don't want it. I won't be an active tester, so why waste the money, right?
No, I don't
Right.
blame you.
And if like I said, like if I had straight out bought my car, I would have bought FSD with it. But leasing, I was like, well, if I want to, I can just like if I'm going on a long road trip, I'm gonna do it just for enhanced autopilot. Like I would, if they had a subscription for an enhanced autopilot, I'd do it.
Hey Glenn, now you don't have nothing, you have basic autopilot, the free one, right?
Yeah, I have the free one.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you, because I don't know anybody has that. And Brian don't have it, I don't have it, we have to, we have the Cadillac version, whatever I say, but
Yeah.
okay, what do you get if you go traveling down the freeway, going up to Duluth on the freeway and put the autopilot on the free one? Does it slow down when it gets near cars, or what is it?
Yeah, it has adaptive cruise. The biggest difference you have is when you change lanes, it keeps the cruise on, but turns off lane centering. So you have
Yeah,
to
so you constantly
re-engage
have to-
autopilot.
So you constantly have to disengage and re-engage when you change lanes.
So when you put on your turn signal, it'll disengage autopilot, but it keeps adaptive cruise on. It's like we just did a one swipe on the right, and then you change lanes and get left or right, whatever you're doing.
But going down,
You can re-engage autopilot. So
going on the freeway, if there's cars in front of you, the car will slow down and.
yeah,
and
that's adaptive cruise versus the lane centering component of autopilot.
Okay.
You can turn on adaptive cruise without turning on autopilot. So
Mhm.
autopilot does both. Adaptive cruise just is I want to be 3, 4, 5 lanes ahead behind the guy in front of me, and it'll slow you down or speed you up depending on what your max speed is, and what's in front of you. So
I remember my Cadillac when I had an XT5, you get too close to somebody and the seat would vibrate. I mean, it gets your attention.
But if you're on a long road trip, like if I go to Sound of Silence again, I might do it that month just because it's just convenient when you're driving,
Oh,
600 miles, whatever, just to be able to just turn on your signal and have it change lanes for you and back and not have to deal with all the whatever.
yeah,
Is that worth $200 for that? Maybe not.
$15,000. I don't know. I
Well, no,
can't,
but you can do it for a month. I can do it for $199.
I know, but I can't justify.
$212 after tax. They charge you tax on top of it, but it's like $199 plus tax.
Really, a tax on that?
But that's just enhanced autopilot. So like you can buy that for $6,000 and not have the city street version of FSD. You can buy enhanced autopilot for $6,000.
Mhm.
If they offered that for $100 subscription, I would probably do it.
Everybody says that people with electric cars are rich too, so.
No,
But yeah.
it's more about what's important to you and what's not important to you. Right?
That's a lot of, yeah. Well, me and Brian, we lucky we got on it. We got the full version. It's all bought and paid for, right, Brian? So-
Yeah, as long as the car
I would
holds
have
up.
put that on my car, but like I said, I didn't. Yeah, the situation I'm in, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I
It's-
regretted it like literally a month later. So it is what it's what it is.
Well, I love it, and I think it's really useful. Like, like it's very imperfect, but an imperfect thing can still be useful. And I find, excuse me, value in working, helping train it as little as one
Yeah.
person does individually. But
I mean, like Brian, if I were in your case where I would have bought it up front, yeah, I would have enrolled in beta and stayed enrolled in beta.
yeah,
But being on the subscription, where am I going to keep it this month or not? It doesn't make sense.
right.
Well,
And I think that's my suggestion to people now is it's good, but not $1,500 or $15,000.
50,000, 1,500, yeah.
And
Did
so
Todd-
like I would wait until it's very good and then subscribe. And then if you lose your car, you get in an accident, right now it's non-transferable. So if I total my car, I lose.
that's the worst part.
And so like I just wait for most people. When everybody says this is fantastic, subscribe, enjoy it, move it to your next car if you're leasing or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's the way to go. Or if you're going on a trip, subscribe for a month.
Well, if we told, hey, we bought it with ours, you think the insurance company they'd pay for it if you bought it with the vehicle?
If you get the insured value of the vehicle to include that cost,
Yeah,
It would have-
that's,
it would,
if
it would
if you
be-
can
Including-
convince them, yes.
yeah,
Is
that-
that
That's
that
the
would be-
question.
Increased price costs and when you bought it at $6,000 or $10,000 compared to 15 now?
Yeah,
Like, let's say
Yeah,
your
you're
car was
right.
totaled, are they gonna like, well, you paid 6,000 for it, well, now I'm out 9,000?
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think of that, but yeah, that's a,
Yeah,
I'm sure if you're willing to give them money, they'll underwrite anything,
Yeah.
but they'll charge you for it.
yeah.
Just get the
yeah, I
gap
just-
insurance on the FSD. There you go.
Yeah. Hey, how about these guys, when you start getting that Cybertruck, I wonder what the insurance is gonna cost on that thing, because
I don't know. I'm like a millionth in line, so I don't have to worry about it for.
that's gonna be ridiculous. I bet it, because it's, anything you hit's gonna destroy it. I mean, you were, I mean, it's got, it's 302 stainless, is it what they're using or something, but,
yeah, something like that.
yeah. But,
Yeah, I think this year, like once those things start rolling off, and I do think they probably will mid-year, we'll start seeing some deliveries and
texted me here.
it'll be yeah, really interesting to see what the actual final design is of it. And because I still don't think we've really seen the final, and they're not in production. The casting machine just got assembled in the last couple weeks, or is
We're talking
still
about, oh, you
being
can pop the
assembled.
mirrors off and crap. Well, they have to put them on for obviously, to sell it, but
Yeah,
it's not stopping a person from taking them off, like the side
Right.
mirrors. But
yeah, it's gonna be
I don't
wild.
know. I
like,
still
is it
use
gonna be
mine
like, we
here.
don't know, like, is it gonna be like a full pass through in the back, or is it just gonna be half of the window, or like it's got a tonneau cover, like what is it gonna be? And everybody's concerned about the wiper. I could care less about the wiper.
Monster wiper?
Tank wiper or whatever. I don't care. Like, that's the least of my concerns. Does it clean the glass? Cool. Like,
When did they go to a heated windshield? Then you don't have to worry about it. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, the new Ys have, does your Y have the heat underneath?
Yeah, the wipers
the
are heated.
wipers?
Yeah.
But how about that? You go to, I had ceramic coating down on my window and it just beads up. That was just,
Yeah, that stuff is nice.
it
I have a
was-
different question. Have any of you guys driven a Rivian yet?
I've ridden in one. I haven't driven. I have ridden in RS, the pickup truck, and I've sat in the SUV. And
Yeah,
the pickup truck, I'm not sure. It's the height adjustment makes a totally different vehicle. You can put it up on medium to high, and it feels like better than the F-150 F-150 off-roading. It feels like you're going through nothing. You drop it down, it's a sports car, and you're like, with the same vehicle.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Brian.
Oh yeah, I got a chance to drive the R1S when I
You're
did that
special.
interview, and it's like a tank sports car, and it's so fast. I haven't done a plaid launch yet. I need to get in Jason's car and have him.
Oh,
Do
it
a
is.
launch
By
with
the
it.
way, you've gone on the Ludicrous launch, haven't you, Brian? Have you or not?
I'm not sure. I think 3 Performance might be the fastest Tesla
Okay.
launch I've
Well,
done.
Gotta
that's the
sign a
same as a
waiver.
Rivian. They're close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically when the 3 or the Ludicrous would not pull as hard, the Plaid is still pulling hard. It stops
Yeah.
pulling hard when they let the accelerator off.
Yeah, the R1S was violent compared to my Model Y and my Model S, but both of those were the slower versions of those cars. So
Mhm.
I got in
But
my car today and it
it
was
was
still in
pretty
chill mode.
impressive.
It was still in chill mode. And,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what am I doing in chill mode? Or wet, put it back in regular, and I just stepped it on the stop. I'm like, oh, there you go, like back to
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah, it's
Honestly, like, did you see it was on Twitter? I could probably find it again. Someone was driving on mud, like frozen mud.
and it got
The
sunk
old
in there.
R1S got stuck. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw the picture. I
Oh,
don't
and then
know
did you
if it
see
was a
the
video.
toe, the toe chain snapped and broke the rear window?
Oh,
Oh,
And it took a tow truck and what else did they have? Something else to lift it.
Like a forklift or something, or a
Yeah, to
skid
lift it up
loader or
and then pull
something.
it out. Yeah, to get it out of there.
Oh,
It was a week old.
wow.
I mean, it could happen.
But
Like, maybe don't put yourself in that position, but I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to say
but
without knowing the full story.
as far as how it drives, like the ride is super comfortable, but also has that sportiness to it. So, I really enjoyed the R1S. I haven't ridden in an R1T, but
Do they got massage seats in them, Brian? No. just heated.
no, heated and maybe ventilated, but
Oh,
not massaging.
Okay.
Everybody's on massaging seats.
Yeah, I'm a weird person that absolutely hates massage and being touched. And so like the whole concept of massaging seats
I tried it in the
super
ID4
creepy
and
to
I
me,
said it was weird.
but I know a lot of people love it.
No spa coupons for you, huh?
No, that's
Oh.
no.
Now, ventilated would be nice. I had that in a older Nissan, and then my last two cars, including my current one, heated but no ventilated.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. I just realized we passed the 3-hour mark, guys.
Yeah, I gotta
Midnight,
go.
it's midnight.
So
yeah.
I am enjoying this conversation, and I
tired,
do
too.
really appreciate you all for hanging out so
You're
long.
gonna put this
Um,
up on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I'll upload it
The
tonight.
whole
and then
length. The whole length or just
The
part of it?
whole. I'm not going to edit this. I pity anyone who sits through the whole thing, but if you did, I appreciate it. He said
I'll get-
sincerely to the camera.
I'll give you the watch time. I'll set it on and hit mute and walk away.
I'll take it. No, but I do appreciate you guys coming on and being on the other live streams and stuff. And I was going to say this earlier, but I don't want to. With so many people on, I didn't really want to be like tooting my own horn because it's not necessarily me, it's you guys watching and stuff. But last year when we did this, it was to celebrate. I had just hit 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool. I actually had champagne that night too. And as we were about to get started, I'm like, I didn't go out and get it for like New Year's champagne pop. But through this year, after a lot of time doing, Tesla videos and having the channel long before that, but, hitting 1,000 last year, I was like, it would be great to get another, 500 this year. And right as it stands now, I'm at 630 or 1630. So I'm just really appreciative to you guys who have, kind of been watching a lot of these and sticking through it through my coughing and everything. But I do really appreciate it and wish you all a very happy new year and thanks for hanging out.
Same to you. I love your videos, by the way. I was like, when you stopped doing it every Sunday, I was like, oh, now what do I do Sunday morning?
Remember Inside EVs tomorrow morning, guys. If you want to watch it.
Everybody's going to be sleeping in after this.
Oh no! Unfortunately, I still have to work tomorrow. So wait,
oh,
not edited. Darn it!
That's right. It is today. It is
You
tomorrow.
gotta go to Tom Malagan State of Charge. He's first time on the video for like he's been on for like 4 or 5 years. I couldn't believe it. He put his wife on video. Just like you, Brian.
It's a little tough to get wives on video sometimes.
Maryland.
Maybe they just have more dignity than us.
Yeah.
And don't want to be out there, but thank you.
Adios.
John, what's your next video plan?
My next one will be actually I did some screenshots going over to the cities on Christmas Day of the new charging app, energy app or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And so I just wanted to do kind of a quick talk through of the different things that I saw as I was looking at that and some of the differences with the new update from what was there before. So
cool. Yeah, it's
kind of
such
under
a
the
great
bin
tool.
of, winter range driving, which I've done a few videos on already.
Yeah, I'm working on putting all my Christmas Eve drives, all the data and stuff from that, because like I said, we got home at night with 2%, and
Gee,
it was enough to make it, but the last few miles were pretty slow. But
Brian, I just have to say something to all your viewers. If you made it this far and you haven't done so already, hit the like button.
yes, please. That's I love your
Like it.
animations there. Is that all part of through Ecamm, or did you load those in
Ecamm
separately?
Live, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm using too, because otherwise my webcam shows this entire room and you don't want to see that. There's
Thanks,
enough
guys.
like art supplies on the side already. So, but I'll let you guys go. Thank you very much. I do really appreciate it. And have a great night. Happy New Year and more videos to come.
see you
So
later, Brian.
thanks a
guys.
lot.
See you
See you
later.
later. We'll see you guys soon.
Yep,
Bye
see you
now.
guys soon.
Bye.